Part 78. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 774. Yuki Kaze, will protect Shinonone. She originally looked happy, but when Shinano heard the little loli say the word snow wind, her body immediately became stiff. Even though she had been awake for so long, she had not come into contact with many ship girls at all. Except for Dafeng, Big Mackerel, Archerfish, and recently Hood, Ziwihi and a few others. He has never entered an academy and studied systematically, like York City did. I haven't even read a few books about ship girls, such as the Ship Girl Illustrated book, Ship Knowledge and so on. Even so, she still knew the name of Xianggrui Swafeng. The ship girl was born from history and memory, and knew a lot of knowledge as soon as she woke up. It was not like a newborn baby who knew nothing, although there were many limitations. However, just in history, Yukikaze's reputation as a miracle was only spread among high-ranking officials and the people, and instead earned him the title of the God of Death among the fleet. At that time, other ships in the Navy believed that Yukikaze had brought her good luck. The most obvious thing was that after she joined the 17th Destroyer Group, which was intact from the beginning to the end of the war, she was the only one left alive. Hemming and hawing, not knowing what to say, Shinano called out, "Snow, Sister Swikikaze, hello." Of course Yukikaze also saw that something was wrong on Shinano's face, but she was used to it. Sugu put his hand on her head, touched it, indicated that she was fine, and said, "I didn't expect Shinano to know Yukikaze's name as well." I know a little bit." Shinano glanced at Swafeng, who was hiding behind Sugu. She was unwilling to behave in a way that might hurt others, but historically it was because of the Yukikaze's escort that the Shinano sank after just over 10 hours of sailing. Now people have to worry. Sugu pretended to be distressed. "I'm afraid of people like you who don't understand." He thought to himself that Swafeng had just returned to the town hall and was alone every day. He was afraid that it would suck away everyone's luck and bring misfortune to everyone, so he didn't dare to play with everyone. After some careful guidance, I finally used my courage. Of course, everyone is still a little afraid of her, so I have to find an opportunity to give everyone a special lesson. Why was the Yukikaze able to survive until the end of the war? Sugu couldn't help but teach Shinano a lesson. He talked a lot and ended up feeling heartbroken. Historically, the captain of the destroyer Yukikaze believed that it was impossible to sail at night for effective anti-submarine warfare, and suggested setting off during the day. However, the captain of the Shinano believed that the Shinano's armor was sufficient to defend against torpedoes, and finally decided to set sail at night. The result of his insistence was that he encountered Waterjet's fish number. It's obviously his own fault and he didn't listen to others' advice. How can he still blame Swafeng? Why did I introduce Yukikaze to you? Because I am not a good person and like to bully others. Mainly from a historical perspective, you, Shinano's first and last voyage, were led by the 17th Destroyer Team, the escort, including Swafeng. I thought, because of the history, you must feel very close to her when you see her, but I didn't expect that you would be prejudiced against her. That's all, my fault. I won't say anything else. Even Yukikaze can absorb luck. Hood also has lucky E, Shinano, you only have lucky one. Just say it earlier. I know I misunderstood Swafeng. Why do I have to mention luck? Although it's very small, it's probably just that little. There is not much difference between yes and no, but like that kind of man who has only a handful of hair left, he obviously looks better with a shaved head, but he still takes care of it carefully every day, and he can't bear to do it. Thinking this, Shinano lowered his head. I was wrong. Knowing your mistakes can help you improve a lot, Sugu said. Shinano's lips moved. Sister Yukikaze, I'm sorry. Well, Shinanone. Good sister, the scene of deep sisterly love finally appeared, and Sugu was greatly relieved. After thinking about it again, there were so many auspicious things that happened in history, and maybe they were actually a little bit famous. Although it is just a joke, in the game Swifeng has the ability to absorb other people's luck, and the game is so similar to reality, I can't say whether it is specific here. All in all, that's it. Daifeng, Fuzu, Yamashiro, Big Bluefish, and Archerfish, they don't need to worry at all. They are all acquaintances in the garrison. Although they hadn't seen each other for a long time, they were still a bit unfamiliar and didn't know how to speak or what to say, but they soon became familiar with each other. Shinano, who needed to be especially worried, had also made arrangements. During dinner, Sugu even took her to introduce them one by one, and that was basically it. That night, Sugu lay on the bed and sighed. It's a pity that I forgot to bring my camera, otherwise I could have taken pictures of everything. The hot spring hotel is really beautiful. The mountains and rivers are pristine and there is no pollution at all. There are also many small animals, which are not afraid of life at all. Like squirrels, they dare to run up to your hand and take peanuts. And deer, they like to eat deer cakes, and you can touch their heads. When you get up in the morning, first soak in a hot spring. Sitting in the bathtub, you can see the tall cherry blossom trees with your head raised, and see the cherry blossoms falling from the sky. It is said that the speed of rain is 5 meters per second, and the speed of clouds is 1 centimeter per second. I told you before, the speed of cherry blossoms falling is 5 centimeters per second. Hot spring eggs are cooked in hot springs. When you crack the eggshell, it's amazing. The egg white is still liquid, but the yolk has solidified. As for the taste, I don't know how to describe it. It's very unique. In short, I can only guess. I can't explain it in words. Why is this? It is said that the egg yolk and egg white are cooked according to the different solidification temperatures, but it is difficult for ordinary people to control the temperature. Not Lexington. She had just taken a shower and her short pink hair was still a little wet. The cutest little Lolita in the world crawled to Sugu in a white round neck pure cotton pajamas, stretched out her hands and pinched his face. After talking so much, the Admiral didn't take me out to play. I made it clear before. Now, no matter where you go, take the little house with you. Sugu thought for a while. I remember I called you. No, Xiaozai stood on Sugu's back, stepping on it. I barked before, but I didn't bark this time. That'll be okay next time, Sugu said. Actually, I didn't expect to go to a hot spring hotel at first. I spent the first day back at the townhouse with Xiaozai, and the next day I spent with Lexington. No matter what, it can't compare with Xiaozai's status in the heart of the Admiral. Lexington was wearing silk pajamas, which were quite see-through. Sugu explained, because we must replenish the elements of the small house, otherwise we will feel weak, unable to eat, and unable to walk. Where can such an element exist? Lexington said. Then I will also add the Admiral element. Admiral is still in charge of the elements, Sugu said disgustedly. You just want to heal the demons. Lexington raised his hand and patted Sugu hard on the shoulder, then pushed him down on the bed, rode up on him, and licked his lips charmingly. Since the Admiral has said it, let's mend the demon. But no, I know if the Admiral's blue bar is long enough to fill up my magic pool. If once is not enough, then do it twice, and if it is not enough, do it 3, 4, or 5 times. Sugu looked shocked. Lexington's face turned red in an instant. He covered his face with his hands, leaned on Sugu's back, and shrugged his shoulders. It's true, it's become so dirty. It's all the Admiral's fault. It's none of my business, Sugu said. You still said. On the third day, Sugu had a good rest. On the fourth night, he was in Helena's room. It still doesn't work, Sugu shook his head, thinking that Colorado wouldn't work for the time being. The Prince of Wales would never agree to such a thing. This girl still needs to be trained. Of course, there is a high chance that she will be trained. Then there is only one Helena left, and none of the others have that weight. What do you mean? Helena had long blue hair hanging behind her and was wearing a pale pink bathrobe. He raised his hands and let his wide sleeves hang down. He stood in front of the floor-length mirror and turned around, feeling a little confused. It has always been like this before, no problem at all. Unless someone has special requirements, even though I bought it a long time ago, I never wear it and just keep it in my wardrobe. It's not that as an American, I'm very resistant to Japanese clothes, it's mainly because I'm not used to them. Although it's big enough, it's completely wrong. One drop, one hemisphere. The bangs should be a little flatter, but they're still too messy. The color of the hair is wrong, too. I still prefer black. The body isn't plump enough and has no flesh. After all, it's a light cruiser. Well, the most important thing is the temperament, which is totally unacceptable. Forget it, that's it. Helena, take it off. Helena finally came to her senses, she sneered and said angrily, if you like it so much, just get married. As long as you give me the ring, Fuzu will definitely accept it. Think about it, if it were her, you would just ask for it, even if it doesn't matter if you don't give me a ring. Wasn't it great when you harassed people before? Why are you so cowardly now? You have a thief's heart but not your courage. Go away and don't come to my room. Not leaving. It had been several days since Sugu returned to the town hall. On this day, he encountered temptation and found it difficult to refuse. Always busy. Understand the current situation of the town government during this period. I took the time to visit the ruins of the former garrison and made some more obvious signs. Next, we will investigate where to build a large bathhouse in the town's mansion, for the sake of the current evil thoughts. Currently, I am interested in the garage, which is of no use anyway. But we also have to consider how much it costs to build, how much it costs to maintain and operate. Do you really like it? Does it worth? When I finally got free, I remembered that there was one more thing I had not finished. I did all the first, second, and third bases, and was just short of a home run. After all, there was no chance and I had been sleeping with Hood all this time. If you don't give the ring, the hatchet will be inevitable. He quickly took out the ring that everyone had returned from the drawer and was about to give it to Ruhi. In the morning, he saw Ruhi alone in the room without his sister, so he stopped her, feeling like he was doing something sneaky. Are you stupid? Ruhi closed the ring box and hit Sugu on the head. Sugu was a little confused and realized after a moment. It's not a gift, it's a ring. Although Ziwahi usually doesn't care about anything, he still needs to care about this kind of thing. He took a breath, knelt on his right knee, and placed his left hand on his left knee. Ruhi, marry me. It's difficult. Sugu really wanted to make a joke, but he was so reluctant, so forget it. But he was not that stupid. Seeing Ruhi's shining eyes, he grabbed her left hand and put the ring on her. Okay, Ruhi said a little shyly, you can go. Sugu felt a little aggrieved, thinking that you didn't follow the routine. Suddenly remembering something, Ruhi saw Sugu's empty pocket and asked, why is there only one ring? Sugu said, there is only the ring of oath. As for the ring, tell me when, we will go to Chuangziu to pick it up. He remembered that he had not been given any warning to fight back. As a ship girl, I don't care so much about the ring. What I care about is the promise it carries. That's not what I meant. Ruhi stroked the ring. He really wanted to show it off in front of Saratoga. He couldn't wait, but he had to wait a little longer. As promised, take responsibility. You can see my sister all over, it's all gone, you won't want to deny it, right? Where is sister's ring? I'm just here to find you. Sugu thought again, Fletcher had seen it before. Moreover, this is a garrison, not outside, and there are no outsiders, so everyone is not so careful to protect themselves. We have been together day and night for several years, and we have enjoyed a lot of unexpected benefits. Ruhi said, "Isn't my sister pretty enough?" "No, she's very beautiful as a ship girl, there's no reason why she shouldn't be beautiful." Although he prefers the explosive figures like the Prince of Wales and Helena, Sugu must admit that Xianghe's figure is tall, graceful, and graceful. "When I put on the Kyoto uniform, I unexpectedly become handsome, when I put on a dress, I look slim, and when I put on an apron, I look completely different." Ziwihi asked, "Or is it that my sister has a bad character?" Gentle and considerate, rather than very good, Sugu thought to himself, if Lexington is a smart and capable wife. Work is awesome, housework is even worse. He can go to the hall, he can go to the kitchen, he can fight with his mistress, he can beat the gangsters. Then Xianghe is a stay-at-home wife, not good at work, but better at cooking and more gentle than water. After thinking about it for a moment, Ruhi asked, "That's it? Although it's perfect, you just don't like it?" "Honestly, I quite like it." Sugu felt ashamed of himself for being so carefree. He liked all the beauties. "That's great," Ruhi said, "you like your sister, and she also likes you. It's just right." Sugu explained, "But the emotional foundation is not enough." "Just cultivate it slowly," Ruhi said. "You mean, you have a lot of emotional foundation for Colorado?" Sugu thought to himself, what was going on at that time? The beautiful girl with the hot figure confessed to herself, and her heart was really moved for a moment. Ruhi took a deep breath, feeling a little embarrassed. "Sisters. A flower marries two cranes. Don't you like Baiwagwan? As an admiral, isn't it your responsibility to make the ship girl happy? That's it now." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 775. I am leaving. The two sisters are often together, but not to the point of being inseparable. I was called by Kaohsiung early in the morning to ask for cooking lessons. I found that Fuzang was there, and they had a good discussion. During this period, Maya interrupted. She was obsessed with how to defeat Yatsen, while Chumi just wanted her sister's cooking skills to improve at night. "It's over now," Xianghe said, and she left the Kaohsiung noodle shop alone. When we came to the coffee shop, there were many people here. After walking around and not seeing my sister, she went to the pier again. Not to mention the first flight battle, that is the senior. The Flying Eagle and Falcon Eagle are highly trained, only Long Xiang is less advanced. But she is self-righteous and doesn't listen to anyone else. She thinks she is the most powerful. Nowadays, it is rare for an obedient junior to come to the garrison. The Shinano has been practicing carrier-based aircraft recently, so he often gives guidance. Standing on the high steps from the Tutlari residence to the pier, Xianghe didn't see his sister. He only saw Shinano setting up his bow and shooting arrows, and she smiled. She remembered seeing the scene of Shinano launching carrier-based aircraft a few days ago. Wearing the same Kyoto uniform as Akage, imitating Akage's stance, imitating Akage's drawing of the longbow into the full moon, and shooting arrows into the sky. In the end, the arrow turned into a river of carrier-based aircraft in the sky, swaying and circling in the sky. Tears seemed to have flowed down at that time. He was such a cute junior. I still remember that York City was watching from the side, enviously looking at the carrier-based aircraft Tianhe. Then he was aggrieved, saying that he was really an African aircraft carrier with its own garbage carrier-based aircraft. Normally indifferent, CV-16 was also watching. The bald eagle Belmacan had a bad temper, although he meant no harm. He kept mumbling unpleasant words such as idiot and this won't work. Kaga immediately grabbed him by the neck and pushed him into the sea. Deserve it? Since the dock is not there, I guess it is in the room. Not getting lost this time, Xianghe returned to the room and was surprised that the admiral was also here, looking very distressed. The main reason is that my sister Ruhi is standing next to her and talking about something. She looks like she wants to go where she wants to go, what she wants to eat, and she is working tirelessly to seduce people to accompany her. Ruhi, what do you want to buy and do? Xianghe said, don't embarrass the admiral. As they talked about Yiben, Ruhi saw his sister Xianghe, and her words stopped abruptly. She said, Sister, when did you come back? Silently. Just now, Xianghe said, you were talking so vigorously, it's strange that you noticed. Did you hear that? Ziwei said, well, it doesn't matter if you heard it. What did you hear? Xianghe noticed keenly that on his sister Ziwei's left hand, there was a ring on the index finger, which was clearly a ring of oath. Her mouth opened and slowly closed. I thought that something was wrong when I returned to the governor's house this time, so I asked her, but she didn't want to say anything, so she kept it secret. I thought there was progress, but it wasn't enough and I needed to live a better life. It was amazing to receive the ring. There was no jealousy. She was sincerely happy for her sister. She showed a smile and backed away. Did I disturb you too? Almost insisting on something wrong, Sugu saw Xianghe, who could really be called sister-in-law now, and he smiled at Ruhi. Although it is just a smile, it contains many meanings. Now that your sister is back, you just talk so excitedly that the sky is full of excitement. Why don't you say it now? Don't stop, keep talking. No shoes, just white socks. He didn't know how to be polite before, let alone now. Ruhi raised his foot and stepped on Sugu's foot without hesitation, using violence. Although she knew how the two got along, Xianghe couldn't help shouting when she saw this scene, Ruhi, don't bully the admiral. Ruhi sneered, retracted his feet, and crossed his arms, how dare I bully him? It's already a wedding. As an older sister, I can't help but teach my younger sister a lesson. The same goes for Xianghe. It's better to say that it's the same for many sisters in the guardhouse. Of course, there are still a few pairs that are different, such as York, the inconspicuous sister, and Exeter, the gentle sister. There is also the boyish flying eagle, and the capable sister falcon, be more sensible. Ruhi responded, okay, I will. Don't be willful. Xianghe thought for a moment. When did I become willful? I am stubborn and have no scruples. Do whatever you want and do it regardless of the consequences. To be honest, Ruhi never loses his temper. He usually thinks carefully about what he wants to buy and what he wants to do if anyone objects. Even in front of Sugu, she liked to argue, but it was always just words. Okay, I was wrong, Ruhi is very good. Xianghe said, I usually listen to the admiral. Ruhi's face was expressionless, and Sugu nodded. Xianghe wanted to say a few words, but he saw Ruhi exaggeratingly holding his head and squatting on the ground, looking like he was in agony and almost rolled over. She showed a helpless and doting expression, but she was still assured that her sister would become a qualified wife. Just like a mother whose daughter got married, Xianghe said to Sugu again, I will ask the admiral to take care of my sister. Leave it to me. Sugu nodded, always feeling that the sentence was a little subtle. He takes care of me. Ruhi stood up from the ground and pointed at Sugu, he just doesn't need me to take care of him. Sugu couldn't help but said to Ruhi, when will I need your care? Waving his hands up and down, Ruhi said, you need my care, you just need Lexington, counterattack, and reputation to take care of you. Sugu wanted to defend himself, but was speechless. He doesn't need anyone to take care of him, and he can even take care of many people, but he can't help but take care of himself. If you want to refuse, you will immediately hear a resentful voice saying, you don't love me anymore, what did I do? I will definitely correct it, and similar words, making it impossible to refuse. Finally reacting, Ruhi said, hey, sister, are you leaving the town hall? What did you say? Xianghe blinked in confusion, why should I leave? Since you're not leaving, why do you make it sound like you're leaving? Ruhi said, I can't count on you at all. I want my sister to wake me up every day and help me wash my clothes every day. Xianghe realized that he would not leave the garrison. Even if Ziwihi becomes a wedding ship, I'm afraid he will still sleep with him every night. After all, the admiral has too many wedding ships. From this point of view, apart from getting an extra ring, it is still different from usual, there will be no changes. But this kind of care was just a courtesy. Ruhi suddenly laughed, and she grinned at Sugu. Sister, do you know what we just said? What? Xianghe asked curiously. Ruhi smiled brightly, but it looked a little evil no matter how he looked. She walked up to Xianghe, put her arms around her sister's shoulders, leaned her head in and whispered. Sugu could probably guess what Ruhi was talking about, but he couldn't say it out loud. Xianghe's face became increasingly red and his lips pursed little by little. I thought that the admiral had already made up his mind and promised to give me a ring or something, so he wouldn't be so stupid as to believe it. I've already told my sister that you promised to give her the ring. Ruhi walked up to Sugu again and whispered, finally patting his shoulder, okay, you can decide for yourself, it doesn't look like your sister is disappointed. Sugu looked at Ruhi and thought, in another place, your use of information asymmetry would still have some effect. It's true that some powerful people can use the set to achieve many goals, but forget it for now. As expected, Xianghe rubbed his forehead, and then smiled helplessly. Ruhi, stop fooling around. Ruhi threatened Sugu, tell me, did you agree just now? Sugu thought to himself, it was just a close call. In other words, after thinking about where to buy a house, what kind of car to buy, and finally where to travel, it's just like winning a lottery ticket. Sister, don't believe it, Ruhi said in disgust, he is just pretending in front of you, he is an old pervert. I made a mistake that every man in the world makes. To be honest, this sentence is a bit shameless. There are many loyal men, and there are even women who are just emperors, like Zhu Yutang. But no matter what, most men are still more carefree. It's like when you see a girl with big breasts and a big butt walking by on the street, you have to take a second look in anticipation of what will happen. As a man, Sugu is no exception. There is no reason not to like all the pretty and cute girls. However, he admitted in his heart that he had to defend himself. He said, Ruhi, don't talk nonsense. Why am I a pervert again? Isn't it? Ruhi raised his chin. Cranky and unreasonable Sugu retreated and said, okay, I'm a pervert. However, Ruhi didn't care about his tone at all. Sister, listen, he admitted it. I heard it, Xianghe said helplessly. As the saying goes, if you learn mathematics, physics, and chemistry well, you will not be afraid of traveling all over the world. One fresh trick, eaten all over the world. Ruhi brought up the old thing again, and she said, Sister, he took a look at your body. If you don't marry, you will lose your virginity. Bastard, you looked at my sister's body, do you still want to default on your debt and be irresponsible? Even though it was an accident, Xianghe was very traditional, but she still cared about it. It didn't matter if she couldn't do it. She usually just acted like an ostrich and didn't think about it. But losing one's virginity is too exaggerated. It suddenly occurred to me that I had read a book before, even if a man had seen me, I just had to kill that person. Sugu here, he has the heart of a bear and the courage of a leopard, so how can he have the courage to say so? I just looked at it, it doesn't matter. There are many places I have not seen and many things I have not done. Living is more important than anything else. Finally, Xianghe spoke, Ruhi, stop talking. Ruhi asked, Sister, don't you like it? After a pause, Xianghe admitted generously, I like it. That's fine then. Xianghe glanced at Sugu, don't embarrass the admiral. Feeling that Xianghe's voice was indeed a bit resentful, Sugu was silent for a moment and said, "Actually, I don't care. Xianghe is so beautiful, so I still like her very much." Xianghe said, "Actually, even if the admiral gives me the ring now, I won't agree." "Why?" Ruhi asked. Xianghe shook his head. She just walked to the short side of the room, knelt down, picked up the teapot and asked Sugu, "Admiral, do you want some tea?" Sugu said, "No need. Talk. 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 If my sister doesn't greet me, then I'll do it myself." Ruhi poured himself a cup of tea, drank it in one gulp, and continued to toss. "She won't give up so easily." "Don't tell me." Xianghe let his sister shake him with a funny expression on his face. Ruhi tried again and again, but it still worked to some extent. Xianghe finally surrendered. "Don't laugh at me." "No joke." Ruhi shook his head quickly. "Of course she was just perfunctory. There are so many people in the garrison, but there is only one admiral." Xianghe thought to himself that he had never expected anything. Admiral pursues himself every day. Pampered to the point of reaching for the stars and the moon. Say love words 100 times a day without repeating a word. Ask for help in the morning and evening, put on more clothes when the weather is cold, drink more hot water, and get plenty of rest. She looked at Sugu and said, "The admiral said he likes me, and he likes me, but he has never been attracted to me. Now, even if he gives me the ring, there is no anxiety, no excitement, and no emotional fluctuations at all. Even if he is. If you accept it, you won't jump for joy. If you reject it, you won't be disappointed, and you will still have 2 big bowls of rice in the evening." "What's so exciting?" Ruhi was curious. Xianghe held the teacup. "I have always thought about this scene before. Where are the 2 people sitting together? I think I am quite beautiful, with a good appearance and a good figure. When the wind blew over, I quickly hold down the hair and the hem of the skirt. Then the admiral looked at me like this, his heart was beating loudly, and he finally lowered his head." Ruhi asked, "What else?" "I don't want to, but I'm just a hopeless road idiot, and there's nothing I can do about it. Even if we usually fly carrier-based aircraft, we can find the deep-sea ship girls wherever they are, and then eliminate them." Xianghe said, "Also, like this. I got lost somewhere, a place where ordinary people would never get lost. At this time, the admiral came over and said to me, 'Xianghe, you are such a road fool.' Then he stretched out his hand towards me and said, 'Idiot, this kind of thing happens when you don't see me. Situation, let's go.' I handed over my hand and the 2 of them left. The admiral walked in front, grabbed my hand, looked back at my face, and then turned his head and thought. A little dazed, but so cute. I always felt that Xianghe was steady in the past, but I never thought he had such a girlish side." Sugu saw her kneeling on the ground with a slight smile on her face. "Her eyes are bright, her voice is soft, and her profile is so beautiful." Xianghe said a lot, and after finally finishing, she raised her head and looked at Sugu. He found Sugu staring at him and pursed his lips. That sight seemed to be exactly the kind of heartbeat I was expecting. Ruhi didn't notice anything was wrong. Her ability to observe people's emotions wasn't enough, so she laughed a little. "Oh, my sister doesn't mind being shy." Smiling, Xianghe lowered his head. Sugu said nothing. Ziwihi was thoughtful. The sunshine in the morning was very good. At this time, it poured into the room from the window, and light dust particles danced in the sunlight. There was a wind chime hanging on the window, tinkling in the breeze. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 776. A cup of lemon milk tea. Okay, the girl clerk said, wait a moment. While waiting for the milk tea, Ruhi sat on a wicker chair beside the small round table next to the small milk tea shop. At this moment, she was holding her chin in her hands, and no matter how you looked at her expression, she looked a little proud. Sister, my sister can only help you here. Next to the bustling square of Chuangziu, Xianghe watched as his sister entered the mall and disappeared around the corner. She stood there for a long time, really at a loss, and hesitated whether to catch up. After thinking about it, I was really not good at running, and the possibility of catching up was too slim. If you can't catch up, it will be difficult to get lost again. Smiling helplessly, she looked back, thinking that the admiral was watching her from a distance. Sister, come with me to pick out a wedding dress and a ring. Last night I returned to the room and sat by the bed reading a book, only to see Ruhi standing by the window. Sometimes he lowers his head, sometimes he raises his head, sometimes he taps his lips with his fingers, and sometimes he taps his forehead with his fist. He seemed to be thinking about something, but he had no idea at all. It took quite a while and I finally figured it out. When I heard this sentence this morning, I should have realized something was wrong at that time, Xianghe thought. At this time, she didn't know how to explain it better or how to speak. She walked to Sugu and whispered, Ruhi ran away. Run away? Sugu was a little surprised. What do you mean? He thought to himself that Ruhi had found him very late yesterday, and kept saying that Colorado not only had diamond rings, but also matching rings, so he wanted one too. Forget about the betrothal gift, and I don't have a natal family, but the wedding dress is indispensable. It was a reasonable request and of course I agreed. So I came to Sichuanjiu very early in the morning and prepared to make a good selection. Of course Xianghe is accompanying them, as the two sisters are so close that they are indispensable. One head and two big ones, Xianghe rubbed his forehead and explained intermittently. Ruhi said that she suddenly had something to do, so she couldn't pick out the wedding dress and ring, so we left it to our own devices. Anyway, everyone is living in the tutelage and it is impossible to leave. I have become a wedding ship, so I hope my sister will also become a wedding ship. It's not that I hope the admiral will marry more people, in any case my sister is an exception. Hearing this, Sugu also had a headache. This was because he had been tricked. Ziwei just made an excuse to come to Chuangziu with everyone, and then ran away alone to let himself go on a date with Xianghe. Admiral, ignore her. It's just nonsense. I must teach her a lesson when I get back. With that said, it was impossible to teach her sister a lesson. As long as I say a few more words, I will be called mom or old woman. Xianghe was really envious of Lexington. As long as he kept a straight face, his sister Saratoga would immediately not dare to speak. He was the only one who really didn't have the majesty as a sister. Sugu absolutely agrees with Ruhi's decision to teach him a lesson. But now there is a problem, he said. What should we do? Otherwise, just go back to the governor's mansion, Xianghe said. You can't listen to girls directly. Many times you listen to them the other way around, but Sugu still knows. He thought to himself that if he returned directly to the garrison now, he didn't know how much harm would be done to Xianghe. I went out in the morning, and now I haven't even arrived at noon. Although it was said that he was tricked, it was already like this. It's just that I don't have much emotional basis. It's not that I hate it. Sugu said, how about we go for a walk? With a faint pink blush on his face, not knowing whether to thank his sister or not, Xianghe said, okay, then where are we going? Considering Xianghe's character, it's impossible for two people to go to an amusement park or a zoo. The park is a good choice for a nice walk, however, if you think about it, you might as well go to a college with a better scenery. Don't worry about the crowds, you can also enjoy the boat ride. The sound of car horns, shouts, and voices had been going on all this time, and now I realized what I was doing. Sugu tilted his head slightly and saw the mall gate. This was the best choice. Shokaku, do you want to buy something? No. Sugu could only choose another method, buy 2 skirts or 2 clothes. Xianghe smiled, no need really, I already have a lot of clothes. All in all, the two of them walked around the mall for a few times and bought nothing except some snacks. After walking out of the shopping mall, there was a small jewelry store at the door. Xianghe looked at it and she stopped, you must buy Ruhi's ring and wedding dress no matter what. Yes, Sugu nodded, thinking that Ruhi ran away today, but if he didn't buy it for her in the future, there would definitely be trouble. Without thinking about whether it was appropriate, Xianghe said, let's go look at the ring, and then go look at the wedding dress. Tomorrow, or some other day that is convenient for you and Ruhi, go shopping. Sugu Zhengzhou didn't know what to do better, okay. Entering the jewelry store, it was not a big place, but it was beautifully decorated. Xianghe stood in front of the counter, wondering which kind of ring his sister would like. The little girl shopping guide is now eloquent, and she can speak in a brilliant way. I would like to solemnly introduce to you our matching ring. It is made by the famous designer of Sichuan Shou who has won numerous awards in just a few years. Its name is Born for Love. It is a testimony and a promise. The deep love is condensed in the ring. You are a handsome boy and a beautiful girl. They are a match made in heaven. This one is the most suitable. Looking at his left hand, there was nothing on his ring finger. Xianghe explained, we are not boyfriend and girlfriend. The shopping guide was obviously surprised. After all, Xianghe's face was full of longing, and when he occasionally looked at Sugu next to him, he was even more tender. She thought for a while, your husband is really wrong. He didn't even give you a ring when he got married, but now it's too late to replace it. The small rings are placed on the fingertips of two people who love each other. They are a declaration of love and witness, it is a symbol of perseverance and eternity, it is romantic and warm, it is sweet and dreamy. After a long time, Xianghe walked out of the jewelry store and said, I was completely misunderstood. If he were in the other person's position, he would definitely be like this. Sugu laughed and said, we, a man and a woman, went to look at the wedding rings. It would be difficult not to be misunderstood. It's better not to look at the wedding dress, Xianghe said, otherwise, I will be misunderstood again. It's just a misunderstanding, Sugu thought for a while, there is a wedding dress shop that I am familiar with. Why is it so familiar? There are so many wedding ships, except Lexington and Saratoga, who have wedding dresses, everyone else needs repairs. In addition, I control my own uniforms. For example, Helena has several sets of wedding dresses in various styles. I've been here a lot, so of course I'm familiar with the place. However, he couldn't speak directly, so Sugu could only talk to him. The proprietress of this bridal shop is a ship girl. She already has a husband, and they run the business together. But her husband is not a real admiral, he is just an ordinary person. The two of them we met by accident and ended up together. Fishing for ship girls is not just for anyone, anyone can do it, as long as they have a kind, sincere, and persistent heart. If you just have a ship girl, if you don't have the ability, you won't be recognized by the ship girl headquarters, so there will be no establishment. We will not support you in establishing a garrison or provide you with resource supplies. You can do some ordinary jobs. Of course, you can also join the Kanyang headquarters to do jobs with comparable abilities. After crossing a street and passing through two alleys, they found a wedding dress shop and the two of them walked in. Admiral Su, you are here again. The last time I came here with a counterattack, counting the time, it really hasn't been many days until now. Despite this, it didn't stop Sugu from looking at the funny-looking boss with a troubled expression. Don't add the word again. She looks loyal and honest, but in fact she can talk well, otherwise she wouldn't be able to trick the ship girl into becoming his wife. Then he opened a big store and made a lot of money. I only heard the boss say, then let me count them, Bismarck, Akage, Bizai. Okay, Sugu quickly stopped and waved his hand. Let's go, you are so boring, let's just take a look. Don't worry, the boss smiled knowingly, I won't disturb you anymore. Straight wedding dress, floor-length wedding dress, small tail wedding dress, large tail wedding dress, tube top wedding dress, Sugu said. Xianghe, what do you think of this wedding dress? Xianghe replied, it's very beautiful. Sugu explained, you can buy directly here, just buy the one you like. You can also order it, but you have to wait for a long time. Ye Xianghe was a little absent-minded. At this time, she was standing in front of a display window. The bride's wedding dress with a big skirt, long tail, and grand style is magnificent. The front has a round neck and slim shoulders, while the back has a bold backless look with cross straps. The tail of the skirt unfolds in layers of lace, and the silver crystal beads on the skirt form an elegant arc curve, making the slender fishtail even more graceful. She saw it and bit her lip. Obviously, a wedding dress is undoubtedly the warmest and tenderest dream in a girl's heart, dormant quietly in the deepest part of her heart. Waiting for a gust of wind to blow at any time, making people's hearts sway. Walking to the corner, Sugu called to Xianghe, this is by Wujiao, it looks like this is the only one. I know. Sugu thought for a while and then said, I remember hearing someone say before that white is the color of clothing reserved for the deceased at funerals. It means praying that the soul will not be lost and wandering. And the bride wears white, which has a sense of one. The prayer of go and never return. This is a manifestation of patriarchal preference. Otherwise, if men and women were equal, why would the bride only wear a dress with the meanings of overwhelmed and irrecoverable and die when getting married? Xianghe unexpectedly said rudely, Admiral, what do you know? I don't quite understand, Sugu admitted. Xianghe hesitated for a moment and then said, white symbolizes the purity of the bride, and it also means marrying is a new life, indicating that the bride will learn all the customs of her husband's family without any grudges. Marrying into a new family means she will be reborn not to come back is also a good wish for the bride. After all, under normal circumstances, if the marriage life is not smooth and she cannot survive in her husband's family, the bride will not divorce and go home. Want to try it? A voice suddenly rang, and Sugu turned his head and saw the beautiful and enthusiastic landlady. It is said that he is still a battleship, and he used to be a ship girl mercenary, and his training level is really not low. He rejected the pursuit of many admirals, and finally, to everyone's surprise, he married an ordinary person. Xianghe waved his hand quickly, no need. It doesn't matter if you try it. The proprietress looked at Xianghe up and down, thoughtfully. Regardless of whether he agrees or disagrees, Sugu can't open his mouth. Xianghe said, we just came here to take a look, I am not a wedding ship. It will definitely happen in the future, the landlady said decisively, and forcibly dragged Xianghe's hand away. After waiting for a while, Sugu saw Xianghe slowly walking out wearing Bai Wujiao. Admiral, how are you? To say it is white without dirt does not mean pure white. The divination has a red heavy lapel, and the inside of the cotton hat is also red. The cotton hat slightly covered her face, revealing all her tenderness and shyness. This was Xianghe, whom he had never seen before, and Sugu was fascinated by it. When he heard the inquiry, he quickly turned his head, looked around, and touched his nose, it's very beautiful. Xianghe looked at Sugu and just smiled, but it looked particularly bright. After a pause, she lowered her head and said, Ruhi can buy this set. Her and I have similar figures. She remembered hearing Ziwahi say many times before, or that it was better to complain. Sister, we are the same height. Really, it's unfair, you are just a bastard. They are also aircraft carriers. Why are the Lexington, CV-16, Yorktown, Hornet, and Ark Royal compared to other American, British, and American ships? We are tall. The shoulders are about as wide as each other. The breasts are about the same size. Ha ha ha, I'd rather say they're almost small. It's a little uncomfortable. To be honest, I feel really bad when I think about it. Kaga, Daifeng, Yu Shaokeku, Mizi Wikaku, and Fei Ying and Falcon. Ying, let's not talk about the little one in Longxiang. We are all Japanese, so why is Akaga so big? She is that shameful traitor. Hee hee, I have heard a saying that as long as you rub it too much, it will get bigger. The Colorado and the Bumblebee have really big butts, and so does the Prince of Wales. What's the point of being so big? It's better for us to be like this. Think about it carefully. If you don't look at the faces of two people, you can't tell them apart just by looking at their bodies. Sugu said, "You are two sisters. You have long hair, and she has short hair." Xianghe smiled and said, "We didn't wake up together. It's just because we are in the same town, so we are sisters. Even so, we unexpectedly look a lot alike. Unless they wake up at the same time, sister ships may not be alike. After all, each ship girl is unique." Sugu thought to himself, he really didn't understand why his garrison was in such a situation. "I told you that wearing white clothes will suit you very well at this time." The landlady came over and thought for a while. "Let's try another color and a gown, as well as henna wedding farisode." Feeling like he had become a model, Xianghe said, "No need. You have to try." Until the afternoon, Sugu and Xianghe found Ruhi at the dock. "How about you two going on a date?" Sugu's face was expressionless. "Aren't you following me all the time?" Ruhi smiled awkwardly. "Sister's ring. I've said it a long time ago." "Actually, it's up to me," Sugu said. Ziwihi looked at his sister. Xianghe said nothing. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 777. The night was getting late, and my job as a maid was over. Counterattack sat on the edge of the bed and let down her long blonde hair wrapped in white cloth. She also took off her maid uniform and changed into a white cotton nightgown. A creaking sound suddenly sounded. She looked towards the door and saw her master pushing the door open and walking in. So she asked curiously, "Master, why are you here?" "I just returned to the governor's mansion in the evening. I have been struggling with Xianghe's affairs, so it feels better now." Sugu fell on the counterattack bed, buried his head into the soft pillow, and asked funnily, "Can't you come?" "Of course," counterattack replied. "It is a great pleasure for the host to come to his room. It's a pity that I only come here once in a while. There is no way, there are too many wedding ships, it is difficult to get one turn. When I saw the light in your room, I suddenly wanted to come over," Sugu said. "After all, I am the most well-behaved little maid and maid girl." To counterattack, "I really want to say that I am not a maid or a maid, but my wife, my wife." However, he couldn't speak at all, so he could only smile shyly. She saw Sugu lying on her bed again and thought it was exactly the same. The maid had no complaints at all and loved her job. "But sometimes after working all day, I still feel tired. After finally returning to the room, I immediately fell down on the bed, unwilling to move and wanting to rest. Master looks very tired." Sugu replied weakly, "It's okay. Even if she takes off her maid uniform, she is still a maid. Serving the master is a matter of course." Counterattack asked, "Then do you need counterattack to give you a massage?" "Be gentle," Sugu said bluntly. "I thought I would refuse, but I didn't." He counterattacked and sat closer to Sugu, placed his hands on his shoulders, and kneaded them gently. To be honest, the technique is a bit jerky. "It's too light, be heavier," Sugu was choosy. Okay, she counterattacked a little harder, remembering that she hadn't seen anyone in the governor's mansion all day, and later heard that someone had gone out. She asked, Master went to Chuangziu today, did you buy anything? Sugu replied, I didn't buy anything. Didn't you accompany Ruhi to pick out rings and wedding dresses? The counterattack came from someone who had come before. Her wedding dress was in the closet and the ring was in the drawer. How do you know? Sugu was a little surprised. He thought to himself, there are so many wedding ships asking for them. Although he touches everyone in private, he doesn't know how to restrain himself. But I would never do that in front of others or in public. It feels quite disrespectful. Of course, there are still occasional displays of affection, such as feeding, leaning against each other, or using knee pillows. However, Ruhi is very concerned about other people's eyes. Since returning to the guardhouse, the two of them have not shown any intimacy, as usual. Therefore, it shouldn't be discovered. I can't tell, sighing that he could only tell by whether there was a ring on his finger, he countered, but my sister said that the master must have eaten ziwahi. The meaning of eating is nothing more than to confirm the relationship. Sugu said, if I say yes, do you mind if I fight back? He countered, it doesn't matter. Aren't you jealous? Not wanting his master to worry about his mood, he countered, I'm not jealous. You're not jealous, Sugu laughed and teased, you don't like me anymore. I won't massage you anymore. She raised her hand and patted Sugu's back gently. After saying that, she still didn't stop the movement of her hand. There is a very important question, Advisor Su, counterattack, you just said that reputation tells you that I ate Ruhi. Yes, counterattack thought for a while, sister said, we need another mistress. You are really completely unaware. You are Ziwahi's seniors. With this in mind, Sugu said, if I am usually with you, will I still gossip? Akagi is a pure vixen in private, and Lexington is no better. However, they are all dignified sisters, or seniors, in front of others, existences that many people admire. The Prince of Wales is majestic, not good at refusing as long as he persists. Bismarck was serious and rigid, but as long as he made some intimate gestures, he would immediately turn into a soft cat. Only Beizai is consistent on the inside and outside. If he were not afraid of being beaten by his sister, he would dare to take out the book and read it with relish no matter where he is. Even though we have been together for so long, I have never noticed it. It is really hard to imagine that the steady-head maid sleeps with her sister at night, and before going to bed, they discuss who is so and so beautiful, which dress looks good, or maybe this one is a vixen and that one is a coquettish one. No, counterattack shook her head. She was looking forward to such a thing. After all, she was the sister she longed for. She only teaches people. Sugu said, I don't think so. Does reputation still teach people? Of course she won't teach you a lesson, you are the master. Counterattack complained a little, then muttered, she is very tolerant of Fletcher, Trust, and Deutsch, but she is very strict with me. You are her sister, so I have high standards for you, Sugu explained. Just because she's my sister, she countered, shouldn't I be more gentle? Thinking about it, Sugu asked, you can't tell me. Do you want me to help you? No, she refused quickly, she just complained. Knocking Sugu gently on the back, she suddenly reacted, so, did my sister say it right, master, marry Ruhi? By the way, Sugu said, I'm planning to give Ruhi a ring. Already mentally prepared, he just nodded in response, yeah. I knew Ruhi would definitely become the wedding ship, it's just a matter of sooner or later. Sugu said, I don't even know, but you know it? Why don't you go to heaven? Not only Ziwahi, counterattack thought for a while and said, I also know Missouri. What happened to Missouri? What she said, no one will feel strange or surprised when it turns into a wedding ship. Counterattack stared at Sugu's back, thinking, the two of you set up a trap to bully Hindenburg together, and you have a clear understanding. When you two talk, no one else can get in the conversation, they can only listen. The two of them seem to have nothing, they just need a small opportunity. You know it again, Sugu said. What about York City, which joined the garrison earlier than Missouri? The counter-argument was affirmative, not York City. She is my initial ship, Sugu said. It's not easy to become an admiral. It's just like crossing a single plank bridge with thousands of troops. Just like the Chuangzhou Naval Academy, there are only so many new students every year. However, there are quite a few candidates who have letters of introduction or are recommended by other countries. Just for such an exam, you have to prepare for a long time in advance. After successfully passing the written test and interview, the next step was construction. All in all, no one knows why. It is always easier for a new admiral to build for the first time than for an old salted fish admiral. At the back, the more ship girls there are, the harder it is to build. Let alone the African admiral, that's what fate is. After European admirals become bosses, it is difficult to obtain ship girls. There are many people speculating as to the reason for this. Among the many speculations, there is one that is generally convincing. It just so happens that the admiral and the ship's wife have a mysterious connection. It is speculated that the admiral is a piece of white paper and the ship's wife is the lines. The effect is best the first time you use it, but the effect gets worse afterward. Therefore, it is easier for newcomers to get in touch with the history and memory in steel, gain recognition, and at the same time give their own feelings. Because of this, everyone has a special affection for the starter ship. But speaking of it, even students who have passed the rigorous examination and entered the academy are not without failure in construction, and in the end they have no choice but to drop out. Counterattack, isn't your initial ship Firefly? Yes, Sugu thought about it again. In fact, the first ship girl he really knew was Xiaozai, and it was Xiaozai who he also devoted his feelings to. He countered, but you seem to be average with fireflies. Really, Sugu said without comment, actually, I'm planning to marry Xianghe. The movement of the counter-attack hand stopped. Sugu's words were beyond her expectation. No matter how much she thought about it, she never expected, Master, you are lying. Sister, Sugu said, what do you think? I began to feel less confident in my counter-attack, thinking that it was really possible. Of course the two sisters were the best. Let me think about it. In fact, as soon as we arrived at Chuangzhou in the morning, Ruhi ran away, leaving only Xianghe and me. Sugu told the story, where he went, and what happened. In the afternoon we were about to go back to the tutelage, and then Ziwahi asked me if I planned to give Xianghe a ring. I thought to myself that Ruhi was really amazing, he could do such a thing. And he is really willing to give it up. If it were another person, he would not give up the opportunity to be with the admiral no matter what. She asked curiously, what did you say? Sugu said, I said it was whatever. Whatever, counterattack blinked, I heard you right. Did you really say that? Sugu replied, you heard it right. What a bastard. You said casually. It's too much. She couldn't bear the counterattack. She thought for a while, you mean, Xianghe is dispensable. I just don't know how to answer. Sugu frowned, you know, I'm the worst at dealing with this. Counterattack nodded, thinking that it would be totally impossible to act unscrupulously in front of a little Lolita, but now in front of an adult. Went to a wedding dress shop. Sugu thought for a while and said, Xianghe tried on a wedding dress at that time, especially the white one she wore. She looked gentle and shy. She felt so beautiful, and she was a little moved. He countered, in that case, let's get married. But it feels like we have no emotional basis at all. Sugu said. Then just refuse. He countered. If you think it's too irritating, just say you'll think about it again and just drag it over. But at that time I noticed that Xianghe was looking at the wedding dress intently, and her expression was very longing when she tried on Bai Musen. She probably wanted to really become a bride. I felt that it was not enough, but I also wanted to respond to her feelings. Sugu sighed, I couldn't take it up, couldn't let it go, so in the end I just left the decision to her. Xianghe likes you, that's for sure. I didn't know it before, but after seeing the wedding dress and trying it on Bai Wujiao, I definitely want to be a wedding dress. He counterattacked and asked, she must also know your thoughts, can't you accept her just yet? Sugu said, she should know what I'm thinking. He countered, think about it, she is actually in a dilemma, she wants to be a wedding ship. But knowing your intentions, she doesn't want to just become a wedding ship. I guess so. No matter what she said, it doesn't matter if you agree. As long as you give the ring, no matter Xianghe, Kaga, North Carolina, Raiders, and many others, they will definitely agree. No matter because of guilt, still like, or even just want to push down. As long as you are determined, it doesn't matter if you don't have determination, just ask. It doesn't matter if you refuse. It's not that you can't wait, the future is still long. And you don't have to be I like it, and I am happy enough to like it. In short, you are a man, do you still need a girl to make decisions? Where is the responsibility? Sugu was speechless for a moment and said thoughtfully, I understand. It's good to know. He was filled with indignation at first, but his counterattack would not end in blabbering. Then what's going on in this situation? Sugu thought for a while and said, Akage was just stealing the ring, and Colorado took the initiative to confess, so he gave them the ring. She immediately didn't know what to say in her counterattack. She just played a role as a close sister, and hesitated for a while. They are special, Xianghe is different. Anyway, just make the decision. Give a clear answer, don't be indecisive. Do you need a reason to like someone? Sugu said to himself, don't you need a reason to like someone? This kind of thing is the most complicated counterattack thought, since he has a ring anyway. Sugu said, yes. The counterattack came back. He didn't know how to speak, and he couldn't help it anymore. Well, Admiral. Ruhi asked you if you want to marry her sister. You said it's okay. What did Xianghe say? She didn't say anything, Sugu said. She just flicked Ruhi on the forehead to fool her. As a man, you have to be decisive. He asked back, have you decided to marry Xianghe now? Sugu said, I don't know. Thank you for saying so much. How can I figure it out so quickly? He countered, but Ruhi, Beizai, Jiajia, the master seems to like his younger sister more than his elder sister. I love Lexington's. It's more about dependence, he countered, actually, I like Gaga more, right? Sugu didn't answer. He just counterattacked teasingly, like my sister more? You mean, I like you more than my sister's reputation? I did not say. The counterattack is so cute. Being shy and silent, Sugu stood up and said, okay, thank you for enlightening me. I'm leaving. The counterattack was astonished, don't the Admiral sleep here? No, Sugu said, I just came here to see you. The counterattack failed, and then he saw Sugu walking to the door and locking it. How is it possible to leave? When he fought back, he saw Sugu grinning ferociously and was frightened. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 778. This is already a few days later. Admiral, I'll give you a beer. You won't stop drinking until you get drunk. Sugu saw a large glass of beer pushed in front of him, which was half wine and half foam, and Atlanta, who was sitting opposite him with his cheeks in his hands and his little fangs showing when he smiled. The girl had the attitude of I have the wine, you have the story, and she couldn't wait to hear the story. It made people want to pick up the wine glass and smash it down. I just walked into the cafe and sat down, ordering cake and juice. The things hadn't arrived yet, but Atlanta took the initiative to come over with wine. Immediately afterwards, many people gathered around, each with an expression that looked like a smile but not a smile, indicating that they were coming with bad intentions. Sugu looked around and first saw the girl with long blonde hair tied into a ponytail. Bumblebee, aren't you going to practice carrier-based aircraft? Not going. It goes without saying that York City is a fighting maniac and a training maniac. CV-16 is very hard-working and talented. It is about to surpass York City, but there is still a certain distance to surpass Zeppelin. Ark Royal depends on your mood, but it shows up at the pier quite a few times a week. Since Shinano came to the tutelage, she has been unwilling to eat for nothing. She practices carrier-based aircraft every morning, puts on a Japanese Furisode-maid outfit at noon and afternoon and becomes a maid, working harder than anyone else. It's really discouraging to have only one person. Eat when you are full, sleep when you are full, and eat when you are full. B-25 is enough, and so is the Bumblebee. She is obviously a big girl, wearing a Lolita cartoon-style dress. When Sugu saw Guam, if you don't go to rock music, what are you doing here? Admiral, do you like eating meat? Guam said, are you happy to eat meat 3 meals a day? Sugu said, I am happy to do so. I'm not happy. Guam pushed back his bangs and straightened his hairband. No matter how much you like rock music, you can't rock it all day long. Unexpectedly, he found Kent standing outside holding a ferocious tiger and wearing that royal blue Victorian-style dress with the buttons on the chest that couldn't be fastened. For Sugu, bullying this girl has always been his favorite thing to do. Of course, that is within the scope, and you will never do things that really make people angry, distressed, or sad. Kent, give me the big tiger. No, Admiral. Kent looked pitiful. Even though he knew it was just a joke, he didn't want to give it to him, so he still handed the big tiger to Sugu. Sugu was holding a ferocious tiger and a plump orange cat. You don't want to be a store clerk anymore. Atlanta explains, everyone has one day off every week, and I'm such a generous boss. You have the nerve to say that, you black-hearted capitalist. After Sugu finished speaking, he took a sip of beer. Of course he knew that Kent, Emden, Princeton, etc. worked in the coffee shop and could take a break anytime they wanted. Speaking of which, Atlanta himself is the hands-off shopkeeper and exploits his sister quite a lot. Atlanta completely exposed himself. If I didn't give them jobs, they wouldn't even have food to eat. How much salary do you give them, Consultant Sue? Atlanta laughed and laughed. What do you think of an employee who doesn't think about hard work or dedication, but only thinks about the salary? You guys. Sugu sighed and looked around. I said you guys are surrounding me, what are you doing? Atlanta was extremely happy and slapped the table. I heard that you confessed your love to Xianghe and was rejected. Sugu didn't want to answer, thinking that after hearing the counter-attack at night, he thought about it carefully. In the end, I still couldn't refuse him heartily, so I decided to give Xianghe a ring. Unexpectedly, when he found Xianghe and expressed his intention to come, he was immediately dismissed by saying, although I am very moved, I said that before. The Admiral is not really moved. Even if he is offered the ring, he will refuse. Guam was funny. He just got it, so he immediately attacked his sister Xianghe. Okay, now the Admiral has encountered Waterloo. Xiankeku rejected the ring, and there was no way Wikaku lost his ring. Anyway, I still bought a pair of rings, and also bought a wedding dress with a small tail and a wraparound breast, and a white wedding dress. Anyway, now in the guardhouse, everyone already knows that she has turned into a wedding ship. Sugu explained this to Lexington and appeased the angry Saratoga. It's really amazing that Xianghe would reject the Admiral. Wichita crossed her arms, thinking that if it were her, she would definitely take the next step. Having not worn a nun's outfit for a long time, Exeter wore a white dress. She sat on the wicker chair and never interrupted. Dividing her long pink hair into two bundles on her chest with both hands, she looked at Wichita and thought to herself. Rather than saying that Xianghe rejected the admiral, it would be better to say that the admiral rejected Xianghe. No determination, no heartbeat, no love, no ring to rely on, forget it. Everyone was chattering, and Sugu felt a little dizzy. He asked, I was rejected by Xianghe. Who did you listen to? Atlanta looked to the side. Sugu followed her gaze and saw Ruhi sitting there. He wanted to cause trouble, but when he saw the Megami sisters sitting next to Ziwikaku, he decided to forget it. These girls were too nosy. Indeed, Ziwihi was a little troubled and she rubbed her forehead. Ziwikaku, let me see your ring. Ziwihi looked at Megami and said, there's nothing interesting to see. Let's take a look. Ruhi could only raise his hand, revealing the simple but not simple pair of rings on the ring finger of his left hand. Her expression was helpless, but she actually wanted to show off, it's no big deal, it's very ordinary. As support sisters, they don't know how to be shy at all. Mikuma is quite direct, when did you get together? Ruhi grinned, what do you mean? Although Megami is the eldest sister, she is still slightly inferior to Suzuya in terms of sex appeal. I saw Suzuya grinning and winking, very charmingly. Hey, Ziwihi, have you ever had sex? Of course it was impossible to answer. Ruhi was disgusted, why do you ask so many questions? I'm curious. Suzuya's lips were bright. She thought for a while, Ruhi is so cute, how could the admiral be able to bear it? Yes, yes. I heard Daifeng say it. Let's go find Fuzu together, and then go to the hot spring, stay in the hotel for the night. You and him, you and the admiral, hug each other and soak in the hot spring. Especially in the morning, you secretly went to the mountains, saying it was to see the scenery, and we went there for a long time. After all, it is impossible that nothing happened. Ruhi explained, don't listen to Daifeng's nonsense. She writes novels and her imagination is too rich. Admiral, you can't do it there. Suzuya first imitated Ziwihi's tone, and then imitated Sugu's tone, little cute Ziwihi, you got wet so quickly. Suzuya, remind you. Ziwihi slammed the table, don't go too far, I will show no mercy. Among the sisters, the younger one is the purest. Kumino said, I don't think so. The admiral is quite innocent. Innocent, Megami, Mikuma and Suzuya all shook their heads, and even Ziwikaku sneered. Suddenly thinking of something, Mikuma asked, I wonder what Ziwikaku tastes like, citrus, strawberry, or pear. Ruhi was confused, and she asked, what did you say it smells like? It doesn't taste good, Mikuma asked. Megami thought of the book her sister had hidden under her pillow. She accidentally opened it not long ago. The cover was simply unsightly. She said, Mikuma, you must have read too many books. What's the name of that book? Parallel what? What? It's not a book, the plot is quite profound. Mikuma defended, the author's last manga was obviously very good, serious, and the plot was quite interesting, but there was a bit more abuse of girls. Who knew that in this one? He immediately let himself go and started drawing. That's it? I admit that there is a bit of that kind of description, but I really only watched it for the plot, and I wanted to see when the girl is tortured. By now, Ziwikaku finally knew what Mikuma had just asked, and she said angrily, Mikuma, you only know oranges, strawberries, and pears. Suzuya asked, so, was Ziwikaku pushed down by the admiral? I don't know. Ruhi really didn't want to answer. She didn't think too much, no. Suzuya said, then I must have kissed you. Are there any tongue kisses? Megami asked, and she nodded to herself, the admiral has been married so many times, he must be very powerful. I heard that those powerful people can tie cherry stems with their tongues. Ruhi couldn't bear it anymore and wanted to flip the table, You bitches, pornographic JKS, go help that person. Even though Ruhi broke out, several people still didn't let her go. What does it feel like to kiss? Ruhi, will your lips become swollen if you kiss for a long time? Those admirals always say they lick broken bones. Did the admiral lick you? I can't fight. I wanted to walk away, but was pulled back. There was really no other way, so Ruhi said, go and ask Akagya, she knows everything. Already asked. Suzwe pursed his lips. She thought to herself that Akagya was dignified and generous, even now that she had become a girl. No matter what you ask, even questions like how many times did you and the admiral have sex in a night? What position, you can always get an answer. Anyway, he always smiles lightly and calmly. He is not arrogant, angry, or shy, and has no meaning at all. Finally, Ruhi lay weakly on the table. Really, I don't know anything. Richelieu and Missouri sat together near the window of the cafe. Whenever he puts on the knight's uniform, Richelieu is serious, rigid, and majestic. It might be a bit difficult to see a smile on her face at this time. But when she changed into casual clothes, she put on a small hat and tie, paired with a long windbreaker, pencil skirt, and boots. Holding a lightweight handbag in one hand and a straight umbrella in the other. No matter from which angle you look at it, she is a graceful and fashionable woman. She specializes in art, but even in terms of reputation and clothing matching, she can't compare to her. In comparison, Missouri's taste is really unflattering. He used to be laughed at by Enterprise, but now he is laughed at by someone. Even Hindenburg can laugh at him. Although it's not as good as red and green, it's not much better. Well, I have to admit it. Yellow stockings are quite magical. Once you see them too much, you will find it difficult to extricate yourself. There is no similarity in personality, but now they are good friends, all because Missouri often asks Richelieu for advice on clothing matching, and they have more contact with each other. He has long wavy brown hair hanging behind his back and is wearing a white shirt and white jeans. With her slender legs folded together and placed on the round table, Missouri really had no image. Ruhi has turned into a wedding ship, I know it. Richelieu just responded, his face as dark as water. It makes people a little envious as he said that. There was really no envy on Missouri's face, nor in his heart. You can do it as long as you want. Don't you have a very good relationship with him? Normally he would never say such a thing, but now Richelieu said, I think you and him are better than him. The relationship between Ziwihi and Ziwihi is much better. I treat you like a brother, and you actually want to have sex with me. Missouri burst into laughter. She retracted her long legs and hugged her belly. I've always wanted to have sex with you, but you actually think of me as a brother. Richelieu didn't smile at all. Missouri saw it and stopped smiling little by little. She has never been the kind of girl who is easily shy, so she couldn't help but look far away. I saw Sugu sitting there, surrounded by a group of people. I thought to myself that I had no idea of using it as a wedding ship, but I really didn't know what would happen one day. Although the cafe was very busy, Richelieu quietly looked out the window at the blue sky. When there was no pause, Missouri said, I found a problem. Oh. I have a lot of friends, but even though they joined the garrison, not many of them got married. They became wedding ships, and there was always a grand wedding. I went to it several times and gave a lot of gifts. This guy married everyone. Apart from rings and wedding dresses, they never give weddings. Missouri frowned, but that's right. He has so many weddings, and he has to marry several people a year, and there are several weddings every year. It's not that big of a deal when you think about it. Richelieu shook the glass, and she was non-committal. Missouri asked, how many wedding ships does he have now? 13. Richelieu gave the answer directly without thinking at all. I'm already 13, so fast. What's so fast? Almost 16. Missouri explained, there are only 2 positions left. I don't know if CV-16 can become a real 16-year-old wife. Richelieu was not at all interested in such topics. Speaking of which, Xiang He actually refused the ring, otherwise she would be MRS-14. Missouri looked at Richelieu as if there were some words that she really couldn't bear to say, it felt too cruel. She thought for a while and decided not to continue such a topic. Richelieu, have you eaten this? I got it from Yuxian. What is this called? It seems to be jujube paste sesame cake. At this moment, Kong Xiang, who had gone crazy somewhere, ran over panting and sat next to Richelieu. She rested for a while, ate 2 snacks, looked at Richelieu, and didn't know where her brain was twitching. Sister Ruhi has turned into a wedding ship. Sister Richelieu, why haven't you? Richelieu clenched his fists. Sister Xiang He actually rejected the Admiral. Kong said, it would be great if I gave it to Sister Richelieu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 779. Until Kong Xiang finished the snacks, ordered another glass of juice, and drank it in one gulp. He said hello and then left. Richelieu did nothing. Tiramisu tastes good. Missouri took a piece of snack and put it into his mouth. Missouri said while observing Richelieu. I still like macarons, Richelieu replied. I think it's too sweet. It is okay. There was nothing strange on Richelieu's face, and Missouri couldn't help but ask, aren't you angry? Why should I be angry? Richelieu's face was full of doubts, and after a moment he showed an expression of realization. Missouri, I know what you are thinking. I admit it honestly, I care about the ring, but that's all. Utopia doesn't mean to mock me, I'm a knight and I won't do such things to vent my anger. Missouri remembered seeing South Dakota showing off the ring in front of Washington as usual in the morning, and was immediately pushed to the ground by Washington and beaten so hard, it was so miserable. Nevada was gathering people to gamble again, and an axe fell from the sky and hit the table. Everyone was silent and looked at the axe blade shining with cold light. She couldn't help but sigh, people are really different. At noon that day, after leaving the cafe, Richelieu found Joan of Arc, who no longer dressed up as a village girl or wore braids, but instead had long straight hair. Joan of Arc, I met Zeppelin today. I heard what she said, and I was passing notes to Xiaozai in class again. Not only that, I fell asleep in class, and I was impatient to wake her up. What? She got up early in the morning for a run, so she was very tired. Finally, almost all the homework assigned yesterday was wrong. She is already a girl, and Vauquelin and Surcouf are younger than her, but there is no such problem. So I wonder if she really meant it? If others don't care, we can't control it either. We have Bismarck in our little house, Veneto in Carmichael, and Fletcher in Thatcher. We have been warned and told over and over again, but the same problem has happened again and again. I think we can't let it go on like this anymore. I remembered that Yuxian always said that a filial son emerges from under the stick. The Admiral kept saying, what should I do if the child disobeys? Most likely he deserves a spanking. Just give him a spanking. As a knight, Richelieu would never express her anger, she only gave people the punishment they deserved. After communicating well with Joan of Arc, dreams must be well educated. In the afternoon, Richelieu wandered aimlessly in the garrison alone, thinking about many things. Unexpectedly, but also expected, Ziwihi became the wedding ship. Along with everyone, I have already seen the ring on the ring finger of my left hand. It doesn't look expensive, but it's beautiful. In fact, expensive or cheap, beautiful or ordinary, these are not issues. If there is no intention, no matter how valuable the ring is, it is worthless. If you have your heart set on it, It doesn't matter if it's just a can pull tab or even a ring made of weed. Well, probably because of this, Xianghe decisively rejected the ring. He. Passing by the flower garden, Richelieu pulled off a shrub leaf and suddenly sneered. I thought to myself, is intention really that important? If the admiral gave him a ring, he would probably accept it even if he didn't have enough intentions. Wear the ring properly, wear it on your finger, and never take it off no matter what. Put the oath ring away properly, put it in the drawer, and lock it. It doesn't matter whether it's fantasy, whether it's Vauquelin or Surcouf. Among these little guys, whoever dares to mess around will be beaten hard. So, why not yourself? Richelieu looked up at the sky and pursed his lips. I really want to put on a veil, put on a wedding dress, hold a red rose, and walk through the sword arch officers, draw swords, invert swords. Passing by the table tennis table, Richelieu saw Javelin and Queen. The two sisters were talking and looked very happy. She thought to herself, two destroyers, very ordinary. Then, she laughed again for a moment. The Richelieu is rare, and many people say it is the assistant to the Emperor of Europe. As long as he gets the Richelieu, the Admiral can be called the Emperor of Europe. But the glory has nothing to do with him at all. In the guarding mansion, he is simply inconspicuous. If everyone hadn't become very powerful, there wouldn't even be a chance to practice. I stayed in the garrison for so long and didn't even get a chance to attack. You have obviously worked very hard, but God is unfair. There is no way to grow at all. Seeing Bazai growing up, he quickly obtained the ring and shined in the Valkyrie battle. Bismarck even served as the flagship, and successfully obtained the ring after suppressing Tirpitz in the deep sea. If I can grow and attack, I don't know what will happen. Standing on the long steps from the governor's house to the pier, Richelieu straightened his long blonde hair and rubbed his face. I have always been thinking about whether I am too serious and rigid, and have no feminine charm at all, so I am not likable. Spend a lot of time every morning getting dressed and putting on light makeup. I also heard that he liked short hair, and he once wanted to cut his long hair short, to ear level, or just to his shoulders, although he didn't do it in the end. In short, the night costume is no longer worn, and it is replaced by a dress. Not only that, narrow skirts, straight skirts, fishtail skirts, gauze skirts, are becoming more and more popular every day. Ruffled shirts, lantern sleeve shirts, bat shirts, all kinds of clothes are also hanging in the closet. I even considered whether to look more handsome and eye-catching, and there were many long windbreakers and leather jackets. I don't know when I will react. It doesn't matter what you wear, you don't get attention just because you are not that person. Like Ziwihi, like Missouri, no matter what you wear or how you dress up. Even if it is just an ordinary shirt paired with jeans, or a vest and heated pants, you will always get more eyes than you. Richelieu looked towards the beach and saw a huge rock there. When I was depressed in the past, I liked to sit on it. Listen to the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks, or feed the seagulls with bread, tear the bread into small pieces and throw it into the sea to feed the fish. However, Souk Bader likes fishing there now and doesn't go there often anymore. I really can't think of any reason why I like the Admiral, and it seems like everything is a reason. To say it's very gentle is actually just average. Perhaps it should be said that I just wasn't very gentle with myself. When he treated Jiajia, Beizai, and especially Xiaozai. After finishing the meal, he affectionately picked up a tissue and helped interrupt. There was dust in my eyes, so I quickly helped to blow them out. In short, there are many things. Seeing them one by one can undoubtedly be said to be very gentle. In terms of handsomeness, he is not very handsome, but it is enough. To be honest, I have seen a lot of handsome people, but they all feel inferior to them. Think about it, is it really like what Yuxian said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder? If you have that kind of ability, you can't say it's bad no matter what. He knows everything about everything, and he can repair electrical appliances, connect wires, draw pictures, and tell stories. As an admiral, he is good at everything from commanding to deduction, and almost nothing is difficult to obtain. It's just that under the light of Lexington and Washington, it doesn't look so prominent. On the sparkling sea, Mahan was riding a small motorcycle named Alfred, and he was riding with a few people. Cushing was driving a boat like a small yacht, and she was chasing him. When Richelieu saw this scene, she smiled and walked back to the garrison. The admiral left and took everyone to a distant place. I accidentally got the news that the admiral was back, so I returned to the garrison all the way. Counting the time, it has been a long time now. In comparison, Zwicky came back much later, not to mention the time when Missouri joined the garrison. Compared to themselves, they were already able to have intimate conversations with him, and even holding hands was no problem. To be honest, looking at it makes people feel envious. There are so many people in the guardhouse that it is rare to have a chance to talk. After finally working up the courage, we went out together to look for Washington on the pretext of wanting to grow. The long cruise life did not bring any closer relationship at all, and there was not much progress at all. Until the end, he couldn't even grow, which really made people feel a little unhappy. I have tried hard, but sometimes I really don't know how to work hard. Taking the initiative to chat, using the excuse to teach how to dance, you have done so many things, and you have clearly shown that you understand it so well. Even so, can't you feel your heart? You may have felt your heart, but love is originally a matter of mutual pleasure. Maybe it would be enough to wait a little longer, but the wait has been long enough. You bastard, I'm not happy. Crying doesn't help at all, and being sad doesn't help either. Keep working hard, I just hope you can do it in the future. There were no tears, and Richelieu looked poignant and shaken. Walking and walking, Richelieu didn't even know where he was going. Suddenly, she heard a voice. Richelieu. Richelieu looked in the direction of the sound and saw Hood sitting alone in the pavilion. On the stone table in front of her were a cake stand and black tea. It turns out that we have made it here, and it turns out that it is time for afternoon tea. She responded, Hood. What's wrong with you? Hood saw Richelieu looking worried. Richelieu waved his hand, but it seemed a bit reluctant. It's okay. Everyone is not here, Hood said. Can you tell me what difficulties Richelieu encountered? Richelieu saw the concerned expression on Hood's face and hesitated to speak. I thought that because of historical reasons, I have never given the other party a good look. I even don't want to borrow a book I've finished reading. However, the other party has always been completely lifeless, looking for me every day without any grudges, trying to build a good relationship. It really shouldn't be compared to my own behavior like this. My eyes are a little red, it must be because of the Admiral. Richelieu didn't say anything, and Hood took the initiative to ask, did he make you angry? No. Hood lowered his head, I'm really sorry. I apologize to Richelieu on his behalf for causing you trouble. Why did you apologize to me on his behalf? For a moment, Richelieu felt a little uncomfortable. Come to think of it, yeah, a wedding ship. Hood added, Admiral, he knows how to bully people all day long. Nothing, no matter how much he agreed in his heart, Richelieu couldn't nod. I just like to bully people. Hood laughed a little. They always say that I am a cat, a girl with glasses, a fool, and that I explode in an instant. Richelieu said, he likes you and is close to you. Otherwise, he wouldn't say it to another person. You see him bullying Kent, but he actually likes Kent very much. Everyone is envious of it. Yeah, Hood said, so I'm not angry. Richelieu was stunned for a moment, and she felt something was wrong. The Admiral is a good person. Yeah, she's quite gentle. Hood thought for a while. We went out to look for Dafeng and brought a lot of luggage, and he was always carrying the heaviest luggage. You know, I'm not very good at this. and Ruhi is not very good at it. So whether it is buying train tickets, boat tickets, finding hotels, or communicating with people, he is busy with everything. It is like we are following along on the trip and cannot help with anything. Busy. Although it's still not as good as the reputation, it's pretty good. Yerishali responded absently. No matter what he eats, he always asks if we want it first. Peel apples and give them to us first. Even when eating, he takes the initiative to help us pick up what we like to eat. Hood said, when I get up at night, he will also help me put the quilt was covered. He just sat there blankly for a while, and immediately asked me with concern if I felt uncomfortable. He poured me water, asked me if I wanted to eat, and made me a midnight snack. Don't tell me, he made fried rice with fried eggs. It's really delicious. If we hadn't gone out together, I wouldn't have known he had such a side. Richelieu wanted to leave. Hood was very excited. I like him to hold me while sleeping, but he always complains that his hands are sore, so I sleep with his hand on my pillow. We went to a hot spring hotel, and when I was tired from walking, he carried me. They carried me a long way, but I was still very touched. The only thing I didn't like was that when they put me down, they insisted on saying that I was too heavy, even though I obviously didn't weigh much. It just ruined the atmosphere. Hood talked a lot and suddenly said, it's a pity that Richelieu, you don't want to come together. At that time, Richelieu was sitting on the stone bench. She laughed so much that her shoulders hunched up, thinking, I don't want to. Washington happened to be walking by and Richelieu saw him. She has always been concerned about Washington's growth, but she has been suffering from the lack of opportunities. She remembered that she had heard the Admiral say before that if it were Richelieu, he might be able to grow up as long as he gave Hood a good beating. Now, this idea took root in my head and grew into a towering tree in an instant. Hood, let's have a fight. Hood asked, a drill. It's not a drill, Richelieu said. Hood said, what you mean is, don't give up, use all your strength, I understand. Shortly after. Richelieu, I win. It is a powerful battle cruiser, and Hood's victory is really not a fluke. Under the setting sun, Richelieu stood on the sea, feeling a little lonely. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 780. The propeller rotates and makes a clicking sound. York City controlled the carrier-based aircraft and made extremely difficult flying maneuvers in the sky. Although she had only been awake for a few years, she had only attacked a few times. However, with the guidance of masters like Lexington, Saratoga, and Akagi around him, his strength cannot be underestimated. How's it going? After showing off, York City looked at Shinano. It's amazing Shinano was not Ryajo. No matter how difficult the flying movements were, they were just childish and not worth mentioning at all. She looked up at the carrier-based aircraft flying across the sky like seagulls with a longing expression. Who told her that she can't control the lift and dive of the carrier-based aircraft well now? She is really a newbie among newbies. York City lowered his head humbly, brushed his fine bangs with his fingers, and said seductively, do you want me to teach you? Really, even though Ziwikaku said, Shinano, if you don't understand anything, just ask us. We must remember that we are Japanese, and we must not ask those American systems for advice. Although Akagi said, lay the foundation first and don't think too much. However, facing such enthusiastic York City and their dazzling flying movements, Shinano could not say no. York City shook his index finger, but it's not the Beijiao. Then forget it. My Tianhe, it won't work. Hesitating at first, Shinano made a decisive decision. She glanced to the side and saw Sugu standing by the dock. She remembered that the other party had said it before and repeated it many times, you have to be careful about York City. That guy can do anything for an excellent carrier-based aircraft. Even though it sounds like a joke, it's not serious. But think about it, if a fly doesn't bite a seamless egg and a slap can't make a sound, there must be some truth to it. York City was surprised when he actually refused. She followed Shinano's line of sight and happened to see someone. She suddenly became angry. This guy must be up to something. However, there were still many people there, and they originally wanted to question him fiercely, but they all stopped in the end. I really want tea, and York City saw Shinano's face full of vigilance and worry. He was so scared that he moved back step by step. Seeing that he was about to fall into the sea, he quickly explained, "I will teach you how to control the ship. It's not for your tea, and well, my request is very simple, as long as you call me sister. The more younger sisters and juniors the better, even if they are Japanese." Shinano was confused. It was too simple. "Don't lie to me." "Why are you lying to me? I am a good person. My sister Bumblebee, you know. She has a super powerful bomber B-25, which is better than your T and has colorful equipment. As long as I want, I can get it, there's no problem at all." "But I don't." York City turned her face away and didn't look at Shinano. She felt really guilty. "I thought to myself, there is no reason not to want a B-25. The main reason is that I am very clear that if I dare to make this idea, it is still unclear whether it will succeed or not. My sister will definitely not be able to do it." Shinano didn't have so many ideas. Even if York City was unwilling to teach her how to operate a carrier-based aircraft, she would mind calling her Sister York City. His eyes narrowed and his face puffed up. York City said with a smile on his face, "Scream again. Sister Yorktown. Call me Senior York City again." Shinano was very puzzled, but he still shouted honestly, "York City Senpai. CV-16 is cold and cold, really not a good sister." There was another sister. York City raised his head and felt the sun shining on his body was extremely warm. "What is that guy doing again?" "Who?" York City. Standing not far away, Sugu accidentally saw York City holding Shinano. A pair of long legs wrapped in jeans looked strong but sexy. Tall and slim, exuding fatal wild charm from all over her body, Yuja, North Carolina stood beside Sugu. It's rare for her to appear like this once. After all, she usually lives as a little Lolita. Her good friends are Xiaoze and Veneto. She took a look at York City and saw nothing interesting about it. "I don't know." Sugu didn't pay much attention to it. It was often like this in York City. He turned back to the sea and saw many people standing on the sea. Among them, Washington and Richelieu are the protagonists because they are practicing. He asked, "North Carolina, Richelieu asked you for a drill yesterday, right?" "Right." "Colorado, Richelieu also came to see you yesterday." Colorado was looking into the distance and came to his senses. "Yeah. It's rare to see her practice." Sugu thought to himself that Richelieu's training was sufficient and he was not a fighting maniac. Except for Missouri, Hindenburg, or someone who asked her to be a sparring partner, I had never seen her practice. In my free time, I would otherwise read books, such as fashion magazines, romance novels, classics, and so on. Or painting, such as sketching or oil painting. Many of her works were scattered in the warehouse, and Leipzig proposed to sell them more than once. But in the past 2 days, I heard that she had practiced it many times, so people had to pay attention. Colorado replied, "I asked her and she didn't say anything." North Carolina thought for a moment. "I heard her asking Washington for advice on how to grow." Counselor Sue responded thoughtfully, "What did Washington say?" "Washington himself doesn't know why he has grown." North Carolina said, "Otherwise I want to grow too. It's not a game, as long as it's level enough, has resources and cores, it's fine. It is not easy to grow here." Sugu said, "The growth of Washington happened more than half a year ago. I remember you were very stressed at that time. You, Richelieu, and even South Dakota have worked hard. It's just a pity that there is no effect at all. I gave up in the end. Anyway, I always felt that I needed some kind of opportunity, but it was hard to find. And this time, why did Richelieu have another whim? Maybe he doesn't want to grow, but just wants revenge. Missouri combed her long wavy brown hair. Revenge, Consultant Sue, what do you know and how do you say it? Don't look at me like that. I don't have any big news, I don't know anything. Missouri glanced at Sugu and thought to herself, it's amazing that you have done such a bad thing and you don't have any awareness at all. Some people fall out of love and start overeating. Some people fall out of love, even if they were originally good girls, and start smoking and drinking. Then maybe Richelieu is like this, he is lovelorn and starts smiling crazily. Well, the possibility is still too low. Is there something on your mind? Sugu frowned, wondering who could bully Richelieu. You are the admiral. You should know best what state a ship girl is in. Each ship girl has extraordinary power, but her heart may not be strong, so she needs an admiral. Missouri straightened her hands and stretched her body. I can't think of it, maybe Richelieu will become a deep-sea ship's wife. With her strength, it is very likely that she will become a deep-sea flagship. Sugu said, no way. If you're not afraid of 10,000, just be afraid of the worst. Missouri saw Sugu's worried expression and smiled, don't worry so much, Richelieu is not that fragile. Taking a breath and crossing his arms, Sugu said, when the exercise is over, in the afternoon or evening, I'd better ask. Don't worry. It's just a drill, it won't cause any harm. However, after a battle, everyone was still disgraced. After straightening his ponytail and wiping off the stains on his face, Washington sailed to Richelieu's side, you win. It's just a fluke, you didn't use your full strength at all. Richelieu gasped. I thought to myself that it had been a long time since I had fought like this. In the past, I had always just given it up and it was over. I have to say that Washington is really good, even South Dakota is not bad. Even though the training level is not that high, Maryland is quite tricky. When he was attacked by himself and saw that he was about to lose, he became serious and even changed his stance. Aggressive Mary lives up to her name. Washington asked, are you still fighting? Let's have another fight. Richelieu turned to one direction and shouted, West Virginia, come here. Although unlike her sister Maryland, who likes fighting, after seeing so many battles, West Virginia's blood was already boiling. Okay. Richelieu rubbed his head and cheered up. There was really nothing wrong with her. For the admiral, he gave Ziwehi a ring and then Xianghe a ring, although he was rejected. From beginning to end, he didn't notice his own thoughts. To be honest, it was uncomfortable at the time. However, I am not so obsessed with it that I don't care about it that much. It's not like I'm crazy about getting married, the future is still so long. Besides, Dumpling Essex, Raiders, Wichita, among many people, none of them care less than me. If others don't have it, what good is there to worry about? Mainly when I was most upset, I met Hood. The other person looked concerned, which made people feel guilty. Then, I thought I would criticize him, but a guy who didn't know other people's thoughts showed his affection in front of me. I wanted to have a drill and let off some steam. Just forget it after the battle, you don't really expect to win and then grow, otherwise the garrison would have been in chaos. Ziwehi has been unhappy with CV-16 for a long time. It seems that Xianghe and Lexington can pull off the there is only one wife in the Coral Sea trick. In short, I thought victory was within reach, but I didn't expect that I failed in the end. Although in hindsight, the Hood was a powerful battle cruiser and had a pivotal position in the garrison. Mk6 is equipped with Type 91 armor-piercing bullets, and its equipment is better than its own. Even in terms of ship equipment parameters, the only shortcoming is the armor. Maybe it's a bit of luck. Anyway, in such an exercise, No matter who loses or wins, it is possible. But even so, losing really makes people a little unwilling and want revenge. I really don't have a good impression of Hood's English department. Then I can only find American sisters as sparring partners, and everyone happens to be very strong. Time passed little by little, and until the afternoon, Richelieu finally felt better and regained his condition. After the exercise, she decided to go find trouble with Hood. She must not lose again this time. She walked around the town hall and looked everywhere. Usually Hood reads a book or enjoys afternoon tea in the pavilion, but this time he didn't see anyone there. Then I ran to the room and pushed the door open. There was no one here. Finally, I found it in the coffee shop. Hood, let's do another drill. We are good friends, why do we need to practice? There is no friendship at all. Richelieu remained expressionless. Do you have to practice? Richelieu responded, yes. Under normal circumstances, Hood is dignified, elegant, and generous enough to be considered Lexington's opponent. She stroked the ginger, blinked, and laughed. Didn't Richelieu have special training with Washington, North Carolina, and Colorado recently? Did he want to take revenge on Hood? It was just a win, there is no need to worry about it, right? I won't come anyway, I finally won Richelieu. After all calculations, this situation was not considered. But Richelieu was not worried, she said, stuff the cat. You're the one stuffing the cat, Hood immediately retorted. Just like no cat can resist a ball of yarn or a cat teaser stick. Even a big tiger can be taken care of with just one cardboard box. I don't need to stuff myself. Although he is not at the level of Helena or Colorado, Richelieu also has abundant capital. However, Hood was unmoved. Whatever you say, if you say I won't fight, I won't fight. Richelieu thought for a moment. Lucky E. Bad eyesight. It exploded instantly. Unable to bear it anymore, Hood slapped the table with both hands, and she stood up. Richelieu, since you want to die, I will make it happen for you. Richelieu sneered, if you come out to fool around, you will have to pay it back sooner or later. Man's calculation is not as good as God's calculation. There is one, there are two, there are three. In the evening, Richelieu sat on a bench under the big magnolia tree. She looked a little embarrassed, but she didn't tidy her up. She obviously paid the most attention to her appearance. She bent over and held her knees with her hands. I thought, really, I lost again. How could a majestic battleship lose to a battle cruiser once or twice? What noise? She raised her head and saw that Lafayette and Kong Xiang were having a rough time, so it would be better to sit as a little Lolita or a little girl, carefree. Has the wind picked up? She hugged her arms tighter, feeling a little cold. There was nothing unusual at the time, so many people didn't know about it at all. Zai happened to be passing by at this time, and when she saw Richelieu, she walked over and said, Sister Richelieu. Richelieu waved his hand, Xiao Zai, you go and play, don't worry about me. Xiao Zai left and came back a moment later, Sister Richelieu, I brought the Admiral. Sugu shouted, Richelieu. Admiral, why are you here? Richelieu then raised his head, don't listen to what Zai said. Already very worried, Sugu sat next to Richelieu. Richelieu, what happened? Fine. Sugu said, I'm really worried about your condition. Richelieu stood up and smiled, don't worry. Then let's have a chat. Sugu decided to take a roundabout way. Richelieu saw the sincere emotion on Sugu's face, and he didn't care at first, but at this time he thought about it again, the culprit of everything. She paused, then took a deep breath, and said with a smile, Admiral, I want to fight. You and me, kickboxing, taekwondo, sanda, judo, whatever. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 781. There was no fanfare, No shouting everywhere, so not everyone knew that Richelieu and Sugu were going to fight, or that it would be better to compete. Bismarck was originally in the training room and had just packed up his things and was about to leave. After all, it was evening. When he saw two people coming in and asked about the situation, he naturally wouldn't leave. They even helped to spread cotton pads all over the ground. If you don't worry about one layer, then lay another layer, mainly to prevent injuries. Saratoga just happened to be passing by and saw her brother-in-law in the training room, so she walked in and asked, "Brother-in-law, what are you doing?" "I don't know the reason, but I won't tell you even if I ask." Despite this, as long as the ship girl has a request, of course as an admiral, she cannot refuse, even if she knows that her fate is full of twists and turns. Sugu said, "Practice with Richelieu." Saratoga calmly tugged at Sugu's clothes and whispered, "Richelieu is a battleship." "What about the battleship?" Sugu asked back. "You mean, I can't defeat Richelieu?" Of course Saratoga didn't give him any face at all and nodded naturally. "Isn't Zai also a battleship?" He usually rubs his face, spanks his butt, lifts him up and throws it on the bed. There is a lot of everything. Sugu nodded thoughtfully. "Not just Zai, I think Veneto is fine too." "Well, so are Andrea, Kaio, and South Dakota. Of course, you can't use the power of the ship's equipment, otherwise you won't be able to fight. After all, one force can defeat 10 levels, and no matter how powerful a person is, it is impossible for him to withstand a single move from a ship girl who uses all her strength. However, without using the power of the ship suit, if a ship girl is just a little Lolita, she can only have the level of a normal human little Lolita that matches their appearance and physique, and it is not enough to just carry heavy things." Saratoga shook her head, thinking that Richelieu was not a girl. She was tall, her skills looked strong, and her strength was definitely not low. To be honest, Sugu himself didn't have much confidence in winning, but that didn't stop him from saying dissatisfiedly, "Chia, I can fight two people like you. No, at least three. Brother-in-law, please show some respect. I'm only as tall as your shoulders." Saratoga put her hand on her head and made a gesture. She saw Richelieu again, but Richelieu, as a ship's wife, actually took action against your brother-in-law, an admiral. It's really the following crime. Sugu thought for a while and said sternly, "Revolutionary work is only different in the division of labor, and there is no distinction between high and low. Our comrades, regardless of their position, are all servants of the people." Haha, Saratoga didn't smile. "Why are you laughing?" Suguji said sternly. "It must be the same truth, it's just that someone went wrong." Saratoga patted his chest. Yes, it is whatever you say. My admiral, brother-in-law, and husband. Only villains and women are difficult to raise." Saratoga showed a fierce look, and Sugu quickly raised his hands in surrender. "I was wrong, Master Gia." Really unable to bear witness anymore, Richelieu coughed. "Remind two people not to show affection, someone is already very unhappy." "Stop making a fuss," Sugu said with a straight face, thinking that it seemed to have some bad influence. Saratoga didn't care and even stared back. "Brother-in-law, I have a way to ensure that you win." "Explain." "Pull her hair." Saratoga doesn't know how to fight, but as a girl, this move comes naturally. Sugu had no expression on his face. What if Richelieu teased his vaginal legs? Then she's too dirty. "I can't help but say you have double standards." Sugu stretched out his finger and tapped Saratoga's forehead. "Okay, Gia. We put friendship first and competition second." After enduring it long enough, Richelieu was tying his long blonde hair into a ponytail with a hairband. "Admiral, are you okay?" "All right." "Admiral, come on." Zai waved his hands and shouted. Richelieu was sitting on a bench, standing alone, with his shadow hanging over him. She discovered it first at first, and then she found Sugu. Of course she wouldn't miss this big show. Xiaozai, don't worry. Let's see how your admiral defeats your sister Richelieu beautifully. You must not lose in front of Xiaozai, and this is the only thing that is absolutely not allowed. Sugu thought to himself, Richelieu is a girl after all, so she can't be so powerful. I have also gone through a lot of training, and my strength is not weak anymore, and my weight and strength are both advantages. However, it seems that in the academy before, he was severely abused by Nelson, who used all his strength to attack, and he had no way to fight back. Even now he is no match for Bismarck, and even York City can bully him. Admiral, don't worry, I don't want you to be too embarrassed in front of the house. Richelieu showed a bright smile, completely unlike the usual serious and rigid knight. Sugu said, actually, you should be more dedicated to letting Bismarck accompany you to discuss. I'll find her another day. Richelieu twisted his neck and turned in several circles. Interlocked the fingers of both hands and rubbed the wrists. Then he punched the air a few times and kicked a few more times. There won't be any after images, but the power and speed are enough to make people's hearts tremble. Finally, she finished her warm-up simply, squatted on the ground, picked up her gloves, put them on, and walked onto the court. As a ship girl, she doesn't worry about getting hurt by her fists. It doesn't matter even if she uses bare fists. It's mainly to protect Sugu and make it easier for her to use her full strength. Otherwise, it would be bad if she restrained her hands and feet. Me, Saratoga said it was not a big deal to watch the excitement. I am the referee, I will shout. Sugu was helpless. Okay. I shouted. 3, 2, 1, start. Saratoga raised her hand high and waved it down in an instant. Just when she finished speaking, Richelieu glanced at Sugu's head without saying hello at all. But for a moment, I thought that even though I was wearing gloves, I could easily get a concussion. The next second, he lowered his head slightly and punched Sugu directly in the chest, hitting it in the middle. Brother-in-law, you are so handsome. Admiral, come on. Xiao Zai put his hands to his mouth and turned them into loudspeakers, shouting louder and louder. It's already started, don't be distracted. In a way, Bismarck was Sugu's coach. She comforted, Admiral, deal with it calmly. It's just Richelieu, you can do it. Sugu wanted to say, Richelieu, you move too fast, without even saying hello. But thinking about it again, Saratoga had already shouted start, so there was no problem. Not to defeat the opponent, but mainly to vent the unhappiness. After all, I have been quite unhappy these past few days. Normally, he would be reluctant to suffer any harm to his admiral, but this time he punched the opponent for the first time, and Richelieu didn't know why he was so happy. She attacked again, hitting her blocking hands in front of her with her right hand. A thought suddenly flashed across my mind, that guy Hood. The left hand hit again. It's just a battleship, a light cruiser, just a battleship. Why is it so powerful, a young girl? Kneel up. Lost, 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 lost again and again. Not happy, not happy, not happy, super unhappy. A sharp straight punch. Be friends. Horizontal elbow. Hood, how many terrible things did it do to Richelieu in history, so much so that it made me very unhappy just to see it? Right hook. Why don't you go to Bismarck to be your friend? Who wants to be your friend? Brother-in-law, fight back. Seeing Sugu keep punching, Saratoga shouted from the side. When Sugu heard this, he felt a little helpless, thinking that it was easy for you to say. I am not a forum keyboard warrior. A dagger can kill tigers and wolves, jump out of the water 3 meters high, swim 200 meters without breathing, and even steal a wallet after calling a lady. Then again, Richelieu usually played the roles of a painter, an aristocratic lady who studied quietly, a fashionable city girl, and a sexy model. As a ship girl and a knight, some things are just natural. This attack is really fierce. If you have been passively defensive, this is the beginning of failure and you must fight back. After all, he had been trained and aimed at the neutral position. Sugu punched out. Not bad, he actually fights back. Richelieu thought so. She avoided the punch without blocking, and then quickly grabbed Sugu's arm. Immediately afterwards, she quickly cut into Sugu's side, instantly turned around and pressed her hips against Sugu's waist, pulling Sugu towards her. The leverage principle came into play at this time, and a beautiful over-the-shoulder throw was easily performed. Ha 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 ha. Taking a deep breath, Richelieu thought to himself. You have been putting up with that guy Hood, saying it was for the sake of harmony in the garrison. Who do you think it is because of, to avoid being sandwiched between two people? Why do you think you care so much about Hood? Bismarck held his forehead and shook his head. Sugu usually practices with her, and he knows very well what level he is an admiral at. There is only so much time in a day, 24 hours. Apart from sleeping, eating, and working, there is even less. After all, he is an admiral, a commander-like being, not a soldier on the battlefield. Nowadays, I run in the morning in order to improve my physical fitness. I had been taught fighting skills in the past, but I only practiced them for a long time. I'm afraid they were all wasted. At worst, I could only deal with a few petty thieves. Sure enough, the ship girl opposite Richelieu, a born warrior, thought too much. Admiral, keep your fists in check, Bismarck shouted. I see. It was just a fall over his shoulder. Of course Sugu would not give up. He got up again. But now I really don't expect to win, I just want the loss to be less ugly. After moving his shoulders, he punched again, taking great care not to catch his wrist. It was just that he missed several times in a row. There seemed to be an opening, and he launched a whip kick. It had been several rounds, and Richelieu knew what level Sugu was. At this time, she took a step forward, and the whip leg turned into a thigh kick on the shoulder. There was not much power at all, and it could be said that it was not painful or itchy. Of course, it didn't end there. Richelieu hugged Sugu's thigh with both hands and threw it down. Without pausing, he leaned down again and punched out, hitting Sugu's face on the cotton pad. Seeing that the admiral missed another move, Bismarck shouted, "The higher you lift your legs, the more unstable your center of gravity becomes. The moment you take off, you lose the ability to dodge and change moves." Yes, Sugu got up. "If you whip the leg dash," Bismarck swung his leg and demonstrated, "faster." Sugu nodded. Richelieu sneered, "Bismarck, are you going to teach him this?" "I practiced this with York City." "Bismarck didn't teach me," Sugu said, "she taught me a lot, but it's not easy to use." "They are all killer moves?" "Yeah. She told me. If you can, pick one up. A stick is more useful than anything else. There is nothing simpler and more convenient than using a gun. It is best not to fight outside, just leave it to everyone. It doesn't matter if you suffer a little loss, safety first. Anyway, a gentleman will not take revenge for 10 years' night." Richelieu looked at Bismarck. Bismarck looked ugly, isn't it? "That's right." Richelieu was silent for a moment. "The admiral has remembered it?" Sugu rubbed his shoulders. "Continue. Continue." Richelieu smiled, making people even more panicked. "Kick your legs. That guy Hood is not a good person, and you are not a good person either. I am a Richelieu. I can get wind and rain outside, but I will get nothing in your garrison." He didn't fall to the ground, so let's get another knee. "You can't eat any more. I'll reward you by raising your legs high and slashing down, targeting the shoulders. I usually don't say anything or put on airs. Do you think I won't be jealous, sad, or troubled? Bounce kick. Children who cry are fed by milk. The more you are a otaku like Beizai who only knows how to play, and the more you are a bastard like Huda who only knows how to enjoy and has zero ability to take care of yourself, the more you like to help take care of her, right? The more considerate you are, the less noisy, less fussy, and less caring you are. Punch, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only Ou Huan can be Miss Li. Yes, Richelieu, explosive cannon. Where are my quadruple 380mm guns? Thank you so much for those triple 16-inch guns. I've had enough of drills, I don't want to have any more drills. I'm going to attack. I've only been a secretaryship for a few days and you took me off? Since you don't want to give a ring, why do you want to gain so much favor? I am not Joan of Arc, I am Joan of Arc. I won't be angry if you give Ziwehi a ring. What's the deal with giving Xianghe a ring when he obviously doesn't mean it? Since you have no intention, everyone should treat you equally. This punch asked for Washington. This punch for dumplings Essex asked. This punch asked for West Virginia. This punch was for, Richelieu asked. MRS 16 dumplings, it's almost time. Sugu staggered on the field. After fighting for so long, Richelieu breathed heavily and his chest heaved. Admiral, I heard you like this very much. Sugu felt confused. What? Richelieu pursed his lips, jumped slightly on the spot, and smiled. Rotate your feet around the soles of your feet, turn your body to the right, and twist your legs at a certain angle. Kick off the ground with your right foot, combine the force of the kick with the force of twisting the body, swing the right leg backward and upward with the hip joint as the axis, continue to whip the right leg backwards, and at the same time turn the body to the right driven his right leg. In short, he turned, spun, and kicked in one go, and a beautiful roundhouse kick directly knocked Sugu down. Lying on the cotton pad, Sugu raised his head. I saw Richelieu's figure filling the field of vision, leaning over to look. He laughed a little bit, stretched out his hand and pulled off the hair tie that tied the ponytail. Bad hospitality. Bastard Admiral. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 782. Richelieu left, waving his sleeves without taking away a single cloud. Sugu was not so cool. Even though Richelieu was wearing gloves, his strikes were measured and cotton pads were laid out on the ground. There was also Bismarck standing on the sidelines. She was not just watching, but she was always careful not to allow any danger to arise. Even so, after being beaten up like this, even if it wasn't bruised, it wasn't really hurt, but it still hurt. Ha ha ha, Saratoga squatted next to Sugu, who was lying on his back and panting. She smiled happily. Brother-in-law, is it fun? Wanting to punch his sister-in-law with a panda eye, Sugu said, you heartless guy, you go. I want to fight Richelieu, Saratoga said, and if I lose, I will blame him. It's not me who's looking for a fight with Richelieu. Sugu thought to himself that he wasn't overestimating his abilities. Please, it's her who's looking for a fight with me. You have to agree to it yourself, Saratoga said, otherwise she can still force you. Okay, my bad, Sugu said jokingly. In fact, if everyone can be happy, they don't mind once in a while. Of course, after fighting for so long, there are still many people passing by like Saratoga. Then he saw Richelieu unilaterally beating the Admiral in the training room, so he watched with interest. Marilyn seemed to be unsatisfied. She said, brother-in-law, let's have a fight too. Well, let's just compare. I will never beat you as badly as Richelieu did, otherwise I will still be afraid of my sister. Make me kneel on the washboard as a punishment. Firmly insisting that there is only one sister-in-law in the town hall, Saratoga glared at Maryland. At the same time, Sugu said angrily, Maryland, let me remind you. I am the Admiral. Not only Colorado can punish you by kneeling on the washboard, but I can too. You can't. Maryland smiled and shook his head. Then I can wear small shoes for you and find an opportunity to take off your equipment. My fists show no mercy. Sugu thought for a moment, I can give Colorado and West Virginia good equipment, but you don't. So cruel. Maryland breathed a sigh of relief and smiled again, but I still want to fight the Admiral. Is it okay to fight with goblins? Sugu waved his hand. If you want to challenge me, wait until you beat Bismarck first. No one loves a fight more than Maryland, and she's a regular in the training room. Of course she had fought with Bismarck, more than once or twice. It's a pity that he is so short and petite. And her fights were at the level of a gangster, quite ferocious, but completely disorganized, still a little bit. Anyway, they basically lose more and win less, so they just bully the likes of York City. Of course, Sugubi could bully anyone who often went to the training room. You mean? Maryland pretended to think for a moment and shook his finger in realization, you are much better than Bismarck, so if you don't beat Bismarck, you are not qualified to challenge you. Remind you not to sow discord. Naturally, Bismarck would not be so bored. She packed her things and said, let's go, it's almost 7 o'clock. It was already evening, but now it was completely dark and it was time to have dinner. Sugu got up. Even though his whole body ached, it didn't stop him from picking up Xiao Zai and shouted, let's go, let's eat. Saratoga caught up with Sugu and asked, brother-in-law, don't you want to use some medicinal wine for bruises? No. Sugu waved his hand. Just wipe it, Saratoga said. I'll wipe it for you. Sugu didn't give a good look to a certain person without conscience. I don't want you. You didn't do it lightly or harshly. If you did, you'd be looking for your sister. Pouting, Saratoga jumped up from behind and strangled his neck. I will be gentle. No need. Safety first. What if a bone breaks somewhere? You really want me to get hurt? After a simple dinner, it was nightfall. Saratoga's job was originally taken away by Lexington. She applied the medicine on Sugu and said, I feel so sad. Richelieu is actually so cruel. Sugu touched his head and thought to himself, after fighting for so long, he almost didn't hit even a single punch. There is no way, after all, they are just ordinary people, and they are not very diligent in training. Weight and strength are advantages, but they can't be crushed. Lexington stroked Sugu's face. In fact, except for the last roundhouse kick, there were basically no hits there. Fortunately, there was no slap in the face. Yes, otherwise I will fall out if you dare to slap my handsome face. Of course, Sugu just said it casually. As long as he didn't get slapped in the face, it doesn't matter much. But this is still hard to accept. You are shameless. Lexington patted him and asked, why did Richelieu want to fight with you? After a thorough investigation afterwards, Sugu said, she must have lost to Hood several times in exercises and she came to me to vent her anger. Lexington's face was full of distrust. Is this so? Otherwise, what do you want? Sugu asked back. Lexington didn't point it out and smiled. There is no way he could not notice the reason at all. After all, he had been in contact with such a girl, and everyone's thoughts were more or less clear. Sugu thought for a while and said, it's called Would You Like Some Rabbits Today? That club must know it. I know. Lexington said, didn't you say that many people invited you to join? Sugai, I said righteously, I would like to emphasize again, I am not a Lolita control person. Okay, you are not. It's not that there is no 300 taels of silver here, it's not that you are hiding your ears and stealing the bell. Forget it if you don't believe it. Sugu felt that his reputation had been damaged, but he still didn't care. After all, the eldest wife was right about everything. In addition to this society, there are many societies in the Admiral Circle, such as the Fire Power God sect, the Eugen cult, the African Club, etc., and there is another society that is quite famous. What club? Sugu scratched his hair, thought about it and said, the name of that club is You Are All My Wings. Everyone in it is a harem king, with at least 5 wedding ships. Is there such a society? Lexington asked. Has the Admiral joined? Sugu said, no. If I get in, can the Admiral directly become the president? Lexington tilted his head. Such a lovely wife. No, but there is still no problem with the work, Sugu said. I heard that the president has a total of 15 marriage ships. Lexington said, you're almost done. One more, give me some time. Sugu shamelessly admitted that the number of weddings will definitely exceed 15 in the future. He smiled, that club is actually just fun. There are almost no male admirals, and they are all female admirals. Women's club. The eldest daughter, the admiral, has married everyone in the governor's mansion, no matter the queen, the girl, or the little Lolita. I don't know her, and I don't know her name. But I also know a female admiral, and she married a destroyer. Every time I meet her, I always talk about my young wife Bai Shui. Admiral, do you want to study hard? Lexington asked. Do you want to get married in a small house, have a romantic relationship, or have fantasy? Don't interrupt, Sugu coughed. Do you know why there are more wedding ships for female admirals than for female admirals? Lexington shook his head. I don't know. Generally, female admirals regard rings as partners and good sisters, while male admirals regard rings as love. Sugu thought to himself, over the years, except for a few special circumstances, there are still only a few people with lilies blooming and kisses on their faces. Sleeping gently on Lexington's lap pillow, Sugu organized words in his mind and said, I won't say it before. Counting from the time I came back, a total of 5 rings have been given out. In fact, the ring given to Helena was the first one. Completely because of shame. Think about it, I used to harass her so much, poking and prodding her. Lexington said, aren't you afraid that she will be sad if she hears it? It doesn't matter, she knew it from the beginning. Yes, it was a long time ago when I gave her the ring and held her hand. Sugu frowned and said, then this happened. I found that besides giving her such a ring, nothing given, just a status. I originally planned to give rings to everyone who was good enough, but I didn't do that. It's because I found out from her that no matter who she is, I can't give you anything. I feel like that's not right. Lexington thought to himself, even he didn't know how long he had to wait to get that close. Speaking of which, why did you give Akagi the ring? Sugu said, to a certain extent, she robbed it. I was also frightened by her at the time. Anyway, since she wanted it, she gave it to her. Lexington said, you are very close now. It's okay, Sugu said, I always feel that she cares more about food than me. She can only eat enough to support Sheik Hung. That is. You actually agreed. He always felt that something was wrong and seemed to have forgotten something. Sugu said, Colorado is the same. She took the initiative to confess her love to me and then gave me the ring. Lexington deduced what Sugu was going to say next, there will be a counterattack. Yes, counterattack, Sugu said, Missouri holds some kind of messy event, but it's a coincidence that it happened to be a counterattack. That night, she initially planned to give me the ring back, but I went with the flow and gave her the ring. Let me think about it. It's been almost 2.5 years since I encountered counterattack again. Although I have you, it's always been thanks to her taking care of me. To be honest, my well-behaved and cute little maid, I actually gave her the ring a long time ago. Lexington said, if she hadn't just won the lottery at that time, the Admiral would not have given her the ring. I won't give you a ring at that time, but I will definitely give it to you in the future. Combat back is cute, Lexington agreed. No one in the town hall could say no to the little maid's counterattack. Sugu looked at the ceiling. As for Ruhi, I actually liked it very early. I like short hair, I like short hair so much. Lexington was helpless. The Admiral really has short hair. Short hair is the best, of course. Do you want me to cut my hair short? No need, it won't look like Lexington anymore if you cut your hair short, Sugu said. We found Daifeng that day and played cards together in the evening, and then the punishment was to drink. Everyone drank a little, and then there was no more wine. I went shopping with Ziwahi. We talked some words on the way, and I must have been a little drunk, so I got the courage, and then it happened. Well, I kissed her, Ziwahi. Lexington said, wine strengthens one's courage. Sugu nodded, thinking that it would be difficult to do it without wine. He thought again. As for Xianghe, actually, I didn't want to give her a ring because I didn't feel the affection was enough. But Ziwahi kept clamoring to give her a ring. Oh. Sugu told the story of the day Ruhi ran away, leaving only himself and Xianghe. He said, anyway, Xianghe and I went to look at the ring and then the wedding dress. When she tried on the wedding dress, no, it should be by Wugu, and I saw her expression was very longing. Ruhi happened to be urging me again, so I decided to give Xianghe a ring. But you know, she refused. Lexington said, Xianghe should be able to tell that you were very entangled and didn't really mean it, so you didn't accept it. Sure enough, it shouldn't be like that. You should know it from Helena's incident. Sugu said, I gave the ring without emotion. But my attitude towards this kind of thing has been changing all the time. After considering the causes and consequences, Lexington said, so what you are saying is that you know about Richelieu, but you feel that the feelings are not enough. Of course I know about Richelieu. In terms of relationships, I would definitely treat her better than Xianghe. Sugu said, Richelieu and I usually have more contact, so we might as well talk more. He taught me how to dance. You know, when you dance, you will definitely cuddle and have physical contact. I thought about it at that time and just got married, but in the end I still didn't get married. Lexington asked, so, how do you feel about Richelieu? Sugu didn't follow the routine, I don't know. If you don't say it's not enough, then it should be enough, Lexington said decisively. Sugu said, but I feel like just giving the ring like this won't work. You need an opportunity, like a counterattack, Lexington said. Do you want us to help you? Sugu said, don't mess around. In that case, just grind it out slowly, Lexington said, don't get beaten again. Sugu suddenly became amused. Although I was beaten, to be honest, I felt that Richelieu's last roundhouse kick. And after the end, he reached out and pulled off the hair tie that tied the ponytail. It was really cool. You're such a jerk. The night sky was full of stars, and Richelieu stood on the rooftop of the dormitory building. However, there was no trace of loss in her body at this time. I felt that it would be better to describe it as there is a beauty in the north, peerless and isolated. Richelieu, you are here. Richelieu turned around. Oh, Washington. How do you feel after beating the Admiral so hard? Washington was a little worried about Richelieu. Richelieu showed a knowing smile. Very good. Well played. Punched for you. After a pause, Washington reacted without explaining anything. Thank you then. Richelieu waved his hand. You're welcome. Washington asked, are there still exercises tomorrow? Rehearsal, Washington just asked casually. That's not enough. I still have to beat Hood up, give him a good beating, Richelieu angrily said. Damn it, Xiao Baichi. Richelieu had always been very well educated. It could be said that it was the first time he heard rude words from her mouth. Washington was stunned. Seeing Washington's expression, Richelieu reacted, but did not explain much. She just leaned on the railing and said nonchalantly, I really want to blast that guy with live ammunition, muta, se mauda, I girl. All in all, Richelieu trained well the next day as usual. In the evening, he approached Hood and asked for a drill. This time he successfully defeated Hood. Cause and effect reincarnation. Okay, Richelieu, you win. Richelieu said, haha, Hood, let's be friends. Don't want. Richelieu thought to himself, you know it too. Then, it was morning a few days later. On this day, someone discovered that Richelieu had become fat. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 783. 5 slices of toast, jam, condensed milk, and a large glass of milk. Wearing a white chef's hat and lab coat, Juno is helping out in the kitchen today. She heard Blucher's words and put something on the dinner plate. When I handed it out, I saw a lot of people surrounding the canteen pillar. I didn't know what was going on, so I asked out of curiosity, Blucher, what's going on over there? Blucher took the dinner plate, reached for 2 more hard-boiled eggs, and looked back. It seems that Richelieu has grown up. Hood just reached the window, and she said, Richelieu has become a fat man. In the past, she had long straight hair, but today her blue hair was tied into a low ponytail, and she even wore a pair of plain glasses, which gave her a unique look. Guam sat next to Richelieu, brushing his hair from time to time, poking his chest from time to time. This still didn't work. Richelieu slapped his hand away before touching him. After all, how should he behave in public? It's a pity that Richelieu avoided Guam's chest attack, and Maryland couldn't stop him from touching his butt like an old pervert on a bus. Change, Richelieu actually became fatter as he grew up. South Dakota expressed surprise. A few days ago, Richelieu would have punched South Dakota unceremoniously. But under normal circumstances, when she puts on a knight's costume, she is a serious and stereotypical knight. Putting on regular clothes, she becomes an elegant and gentle urban girl. So I can't do this kind of thing, I just show a helpless smile. On the contrary, Washington helped her, and it could be said that it was a public revenge. All in all, she spread her fingers and pressed them on South Dakota's head like the palm of the Tathagata. That's what you call fat. You don't want to be fat in everything. You have some eyesight, okay. South Dakota jumped on his feet and pulled the flesh on his hands. He was suddenly speechless and finally shouted, "This is flesh." The admiral said, "This kind of body is the best." South Dakota is fat, and Richelieu is plump. Colorado helped, and she looked Richelieu up and down again. "You really have a fertile ass." Maryland had already moved away from Richelieu's figure. She glanced at her sister. "Sister, you are so embarrassed to tell me that you also have a big butt." I thought to myself that she really lacks education. The second sister is really not as obedient, sensible, and well-behaved as the younger sister. Well, even the younger sister West Virginia is gradually bad at learning now. I don't know whether it is because of her upbringing or the environment. Nowadays, people keep saying things like bed bug, revenge, and go to hell every day, which is worrying. Colorado tugged on Maryland's ears. "Look at your withered figure, no breasts and no butt, don't talk." Maryland crossed her arms in disdain. West Virginia asked curiously, "Richelieu, what are the parameters of your ship's equipment?" "I don't know," said Richelieu. West Virginia said, "After dinner, let's go test it." Ship installation parameters are of course important. Guam waved his hand and went to the health room first. Height, weight, and body measurements are obviously more important. Richelieu's shoulders slumped, and Colorado was amused. "It makes sense. This is the Royal Sister North Carolina. She is wearing a leather jacket and is so handsome." She was not interested at all in whether Richelieu became good-looking or ugly, whether he became fat or thin. She only paid attention to one thing: "So, Richelieu, why have you grown up?" As expected, the rice noodles are still delicious. It's better to say that I've gotten used to them over the years. Sugu finished eating the rice noodles, placed his chopsticks on the bowl, and ate the small house, in his face. At this time, Missouri sat across from him and kicked him lightly. "Good morning, Lolakan. Roll. Don't do anything to my little house." Missouri is very fond of the world's cutest little house, the magical healing tool. Of course Xiaozai doesn't like her, and the strange ant is worried every day. Xiaozai was eating donuts with both hands, so Sugu could take action. At this time, she heard Missouri's words and wanted to refute, making an unknown sound, "Whoa." Missouri held her cheeks in her hands. "The little house is still so cute, it's another happy day." "You idiot." Missouri was non-committal, and it didn't matter to her now even if she was called an info. Whoever told the admiral to be so shameless just learned it? She stood up and snatched the donut from Xiaozai's hand. "Call me sister, good sister, and I will give it to you." Unyielding, Xiaozai wiped away the food crumbs from the corner of his mouth and made a face. "Can't you even call me sister?" No matter how resentful Missouri looked, Xiaozai remained unmoved. "Auntie, oh Bazin. What a naughty kid." Missouri put the donuts back on Xiaozai's plate, and she was about to enjoy her own preserved egg and lean meat porridge, as well as 2 siomai. Sugu defended Xiaozai and said, "You harassing maniac." "Hey," Missouri glanced at Sugu and sneered, saying nothing. "Missouri, I said you." Sugu said, "You came here just to stir up trouble." Missouri took a spoonful of porridge and put it into his mouth. After finishing it, he pointed at Sugu with the spoon and said, "I'm here to congratulate you." Sugu responded, not knowing why, "Oh. You look like this." Missouri said, "Don't you know?" "What?" Sugu really didn't know. "Richelieu has grown." I really didn't pay attention to the fact that there was such a thing. After all, there were so many people in the garrison. Sugu was surprised. He looked at the dining table where Richelieu usually sat. "Really? I can still lie to you." "What's the benefit of lying to you?" Missouri said. "Now she has big breasts and a big ass, I guarantee your satisfaction." Sugu wanted to visit Richelieu and show concern. But there were people crowding over there, so I decided to wait. He sat back in his seat and said to Missouri angrily, "You don't need to say the next sentence." "I think that sentence is the key point." Missouri smiled. Sugu stared at Missouri and found that the opponent was unmoved and finally lost. "Why do you think Richelieu has grown up?" Missouri shook her head. Sugu knew that Missouri must have some reputation, so he said smoothly, "I don't know." Missouri said, "Think about what happened to Richelieu recently. She was originally, she was actually bullied by Hood." Sugu said, "Now she has found her place. It seems that this is an opportunity for reform. It's a coincidence that the Hood has not led attacks in history." The Richelieu. Then the Richelieu later joined the United States and was modernized. Is this plot similar to what happened to Richelieu recently? She lost to Hood, and she just happened to find your beauty. I'm a sparring partner. No. Missouri held his chin with one hand, but I think this is not the point. Winning Hood in the exercise is just the icing on the cake. Don't you think Richelieu's mental outlook is different from before? He used to be self-pitying, but now he is independent and independent. Confidence. Sugu said, "A little bit. Didn't you say before that when a ship girl eliminates her inner demons and unties the knots in her heart, it is an opportunity for growth?" Missouri said, "Then you beat up a guy who doesn't know what a ship girl wants, so now look away. It doesn't matter what the ring is. I'm no longer entangled, I feel free, and I grow naturally." Sugu thought it was possible, but of course he didn't want to admit it. "Don't talk nonsense. Richelieu must have grown up because of Hood." "But Hood, everyone can bully her, so what's the big deal if she wins? It's not worth being proud of, not worth being happy about." Missouri started laughing. "Okay, don't explain anymore, it's you. North Carolina, South Dakota, Zionghee, Ziwahee, Dumpling Essex, how do you grow? I think, just give you a beating. Alas alas, don't be so stingy, just get a beating. Sacrifice the ego, fulfill the greater self. Richelieu was dissatisfied with me and beat me. So when I am happy and growing, I just treat it as such. To be honest, if everyone is also dissatisfied with me, they can grow up by beating me to vent their anger. I don't mind. But Sugu said, I have not sorry for North Carolina, nor for South Dakota, nor for Zionghee, Ruhee, and Dumpling. Missouri said, I heard you say that you touched the wings of North Carolina. Yes, Sugu admitted. Missouri shook the spoon. Santiago's sensitive point is his tail. Sugu said firmly, I don't know if Santiago's sensitive point is the tail, but North Carolina's sensitive point is definitely not the wings. I'm not going to say whether wings are sensitive points, Missouri said. I'm just asking, can wings be at least as important as hands, feet, and hair? Sugu said, well, you can have this. You touch other girls' hands, touch other girls' feet, and touch other people's hair. Now you don't want to take responsibility, but they don't hate you. Don't you want to give you a beating? Sugu suddenly didn't know how to refute, and thought for a moment, she was a little Lolita at the time. Little Loli, it doesn't matter. Ken. The Missouri chicken thief got up and said, at that time, it was obvious that a Lolita was in love with a sister. Sugu felt like he couldn't play Missouri anymore. Missouri laughed again, you clearly gave South Dakota a ring and are unwilling to acknowledge her status as a wedding ship. She must be very unhappy with you. I can guarantee that South Dakota doesn't mind at all, Sugu said. If South Dakota wants to grow, I think it just needs to beat Washington. That's definitely the case. Then she has no chance to grow. Sugu said, give South Dakota some confidence. 9 points to 1, Missouri said. If South Dakota beats Washington once in a month, I'll lose. No gambling, Sugu decisively refused. Missouri drank her porridge and smiled contemptuously. Sugu hugged Xiaozai, thinking to himself. A ship girl can grow as long as her heart is untied. I have always believed in this. But everyone has their own knots in their hearts and they don't know how to untie them. How is it possible that you can grow as long as you beat yourself up? There is no such thing as such a good thing. If in the game, Kaga's chances of getting a transformation are too small. But here, there is still a slight possibility. She has always felt guilty about the numerous crimes committed by the Kaga in history. Even though she has been enlightened, she still cares about it. If one day we completely think about it and realize that the ship girl is not a battleship, but a battleship is just a weapon, then maybe she will grow. Ziwahee's training is definitely enough, and he has become a wedding ship, so he should have no knots in his heart. Thinking so evilly, could it be said that after getting married, her sister can grow up? It is said that she has always been unhappy with CV-16, and it will definitely not work if she fights him. That would be bullying the younger generation. By the way, CV-16 now has the nickname MRS-16 Dumplings. One day she becomes jealous of CV-16, and then Gongdo wins. Zionghee rejected her ring because he was not attracted to her. If her heart falls in love one day, and they get married happily, she will be relieved. It's impossible. Only by defeating Lexington can we untie our knot. There is no room for 2 wives in one garrison. If so, then this goal is a bit difficult and almost an impossible task. Looking around, Sugu thought about who else needed to grow up in the town hall, and he saw Veneto. Suddenly he coughed and patted his chest frantically. Missouri was confused. She asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm wondering how Veneto will grow up," Sugu explained. "I'll give you a beating," Missouri said. "Every day in black people's homes, you're a fake Lolita, you're a flat-chested guy. It's a sure thing, You have an open mind. Obviously you are the black one. Missouri smiled, hee hee. Sugu said, you know, Veneto is the eldest sister. I know. Have I seen Sister Veneto? I have seen her, Roma Sugu said, a handsome girl. Although not very tall, she is much taller than Veneto. Her breasts are not very big, compared to Veneto is bigger. With a clear understanding, Missouri said, I have seen Veneto's sister, the USS Empire, and it was an aircraft carrier. I don't even want to talk about that figure, tisk tisk tisk, it's quite fleshy. Especially the breasts, compared with Veneto's heaven and earth. Sugu said, my sister only has such a figure, just like a little Lolita. Why does my sister have such a good figure? Kill those two little bitches, Missouri said, I don't have you two sisters. Sugu and Missouri looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Sister, what's wrong with you? Kamichia asked as a group of silly little Lolitas sat together in the corner of the cafeteria. Veneto was paying attention to Richelieu when he suddenly felt uneasy and didn't know why.